All right, I'd like to call the Selectmen's meeting to order for Tuesday, July 19th. Could I have a roll call, please? Teresa, are you there? Can you hear me?
You're on mute. Well, no, you're on that camera.
I should be coming through
Should be
the,
coming through. I don't think they can hear us.
I can't hear.
Teresa,
Okay,
Are you
now I
there?
can hear you. Teresa
Okay.
A. Morse, present.
Chad Sexton Duranian present.
And Veronica Cal present. All right, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to announce that the meeting is being recorded. It will be up on the town YouTube channel after the fact, and it's also live on Channel 9. Chairman's additions or deletions. We are deleting the social media policy, which is section 4.2. We'll bring that back at a later date. I'm also going to be deleting the approval of the 4/27/2022 minutes. They are in draft form, but they still need a little more work. So if you want to look at them, they're in the working minutes folder. Select board members. I would also like to note that we have a 6:05 appointment with the library trustees, a 6:10 with our community services coordinator, Emily McCaffrey, and a 7 o'clock with Vinny, our grant administrator. So just to know that we may be taking things out of order. That brings us to the public comment period. Do we have any public comments? All right, seeing none. I'd like to go to 1.6, approving the meeting minutes for April 20th, 2022. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 20th, 2022.
Second.
Is there any comments? No?
Nope, I'm quite
All
with it.
right. Roll call vote, please. Teresa, how do you vote?
I'll abstain. I wasn't at that meeting.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Cal, yes. So thank you. We're going to move to our 6:05 joint meeting with the Library Board of Trustees to appoint Emily Holmes as a trustee. So would the library like to call their meeting to order?
Valerie and Aaron are on also duty. I don't know if they want to or if they want me to.
Valerie, what would you like to do?
I'll call it to order starting at 6:08.
All right, do you need a roll call? Do you have a quorum present?
Yes, we do. We have Susan, right? Susan's in person, right?
Yes, she is.
And we have Aaron here too. So yeah, that's 3.
Okay.
Judy's on as well.
Oh, and we
Is
have
Judy there too?
I see her waving. So, all right. Eric, this question is for you. Who makes the motion for the appointment? Does the Board of Selectmen do it or do the library trustees do it?
I don't think that it matters which
Okay.
entity does it, because it's going to be a vote of both boards together.
All right.
So
So I guess I'll just start. Is there a motion to appoint Emily Holmes as a trustee from now through the town election in April 2023?
So moved.
I
second it.
Second.
Who was the second?
That was Judy.
Judy? All right. Any further discussion?
No.
All right. Hearing none. I'm going to do the roll call vote for the Board of Selectmen first, and then Valerie, if you could do a roll call vote for your board, that would be good. So Teresa. roll call
Teresa
vote.
A. Morse, yes.
Ed Sexton Duranian, yes.
Veronica Cal, yes.
Aaron,
Aaron Corn, yes.
Judy,
Judy Mater, yes.
Susan,
Susan McNally, yes.
and Valerie Goodrich, yes.
All right, so welcome Emily to the Library Board of Trustees, and I think.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
She was already on, but now she's back.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, I guess then, if you could adjourn your meeting.
Yeah, so I'd adjourn our meeting at 6:10 PM.
Thank
Your
you.
motion for that. I think you need to do.
I second the motion. I make a motion to do that. So moved. So moved.
I'll second. Aaron
All
Corn,
right.
second.
All those in favor? Got Susan
Aye.
there? Aye. Awesome.
All
Thank
right,
you,
I'm
everyone.
done.
Thank you.
Thank
Best
you very
meeting ever.
much.
All right.
Okay,
Bye.
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 bye now.
All right, our next meeting is with Emily McCaffrey. So this is 2.1.
Open this time.
Open. I'm meeting with the Community Services Coordinator to review the FY23 Planned Wellness Program. Yeah, come on up here, that'd be great.
You can just stare at me.
So thanks, Emily. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with yours, maybe?
Sure, we can start
Would
with
that be
mine.
A good place to start?
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I think that's it.
Yes, which one is the only one I didn't print out?
I could screen share. I suppose.
That would be very helpful.
If you'd like me to. So we'll start with.
How I managed to print out everybody else's except my own.
Selfless.
I'm selfless, that's what it is.
All right, this is,
Okay, so this part of ARPA is something that I am presenting and requesting because I feel like these particular things would be helpful for me being able to do my job. The first thing that you'll see is a simple practice electronic. That is just an online platform that is HIPAA compliant that will allow me to track information as residents come to me. And then that way from there, we can get demographic information, we can get statistics, it'll help with reports. And overall, it'll just ensure the need that for a community services coordinator at the end of the 5 years. They offer a couple different plans. It's pretty cheap. It's $348 yearly. And this was a suggestion that I got from Jen Melanson, who is the community services coordinator over in Chelmsford, who did something similar where she built her own position as well. This has been a tool that's been coming in handy for her. The
Are we asking questions at the end or can we ask them as you bring something up?
I think it's, I think for me, I'd like to go through the 3 things
Okay,
that
thank you.
Emily has here and then ask questions on this.
Okay,
For
okay.
this one, because it's pretty brief, so.
Okay. The second line item would be applying to receive an LSWA. This is something that Chaz and I had talked about. Where I am not a licensed social worker, I do think it would be helpful for me to get the licensed social worker associates, which would give me a code of ethics to be able to work with and also help me kind of toe the line of I am not a social worker who is able to come into your home, nor do I want to be a social worker able to come into your home, but it will give me a little bit more context. And I believe it would be helpful in my own journey as we kind of navigate this because we've never had a community services person before. And then the last one would be a care.com subscription. So this is something that you can actually do for free online. And I'm not sure how familiar people are with cares.com or care.com.
I'm sorry. Oh.
I apologize. I didn't want to yell it out loud.
Thank
while I
you.
was-
I'm listening.
Yeah, I know. You're very focused on what you're saying.
Thank you.
So care.com is, again, an online platform. It basically allows you to post like a job description. So for example, if I had a resident who was in need of a home care service, but their insurance might not provide that, or we couldn't find a service within Townsend or the surrounding area that would meet their needs, cares.com allows you to put out a job posting, and then people who are Corey checked and who are professionals are able to see those postings and get back to you to say, hey, I would be very interested in this. This one isn't a priority, but I do believe it would be helpful to me, as I've seen a couple people, especially people who are looking for transportation at this moment. There are people who can provide transportation to certain residents, and we don't have much transportation in Townsend. So that is something that I'm running into a lot. Care.com does things like mental health, home care, babysitting, dog sitting, it just all of these different kind of small task needs that could come.
It's like the Angie's list of
Right.
mental health.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. It really is.
Or just making it like work.
Right. So what I
Yeah.
found was that I could create an account and I could post a job like description. And then when people message me, I can't see any of it because it says, please like buy the whole program or you cannot respond to anybody. So that was unhelpful when I realized that. But those are the only three things that I am requesting for me to be able to do my job to an efficiency that I believe is good.
Okay, so let's start with questions. Teresa, you had a question on the platform that Emily is requesting?
Yeah, just a couple of questions, Emily. Hi, how are you, by the way?
How are you?
Good. Simple Practice, I use it a lot. I know it quite well. I know it does payroll and billing. I mean, that's one of the major functions of it. But I do know it's a good way to keep notes and keep schedules as well. Is the price you have exclusive for notes, or are you paying for all that other payroll and?
Nope. There are three tiers. That's a very good question, Teresa. There are three tiers, and I would be choosing the one that does not do with payroll. It would be their just basic format.
And not the billing section either, because I think that's really expensive too, if I remember.
Yeah, none of those.
Okay, perfect. And then the care.com, explain to me, because if I want to get services, I can go and care.com and it doesn't cost me anything. But if I want to list the services I'm offering, so how are you offering services? Are you going to get your social work in there, or you? I don't understand how you're using it. I'm sorry.
No, that's totally okay. That's a great question. So I can give you the example of one that I kind of just gave. Was I had a resident come to me. They are in need of services for one of their family members. What I can do is I can post that on care.com to say, here is what I need. And then providers come to us to say they would like to take advantage of that opportunity. It would not be me listing out my services to anybody.
Okay, but if you said to the family, you're looking for elderly care in Townsend, couldn't they just go through the postings for free?
They could go through the postings for free if they needed to, yes. They could.
But by this, you have like that other level that you can kind of monitor it and everything.
Exactly. I have this other level where I would be able to do that for them and then solicit somebody to provide the services, or they can always go on there for free themselves to be able to find somebody to fulfill that. But the only way for me to be able to post about a particular situation or a particular need would me having this membership. What are the
And-
words to say?
The last question is more for the selectmen. Since we're going to be using ARPA funds, these licenses, once you get the license, you always have the license. Does it have to be used in the town for COVID-related activity in order to be eligible?
What we're doing is providing wellness programming for the town people, or for the town, basically.
Right.
And so that is what's under ARPA 03. this is
Okay.
something that would allow Emily to do her work more thoroughly, I suppose, or with a credential that she doesn't now have.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. I got all the answers I need. Thank you.
Yes, I have a couple. Number two, I'm not even gonna address because you and I have already talked about it
Yeah.
as ad nauseum. Number one, I would like to be able to make sure that they can do the reporting as much as possible.
Okay.
Reporting as far as, you have yearly reporting, but I want to make sure that we're going to be able to break it down
Mhm.
in not lump sum numbers, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So whatever category that we need, that it does break things down to, so that with ARPA, we're going to have to report
Yep.
what we're using these services for, and that'll be a good reporting tool.
Okay.
Also on care.com, I want to also say that that will provide the reporting that we desperately need for a lot of work that we do. So it's going to give us numbers on the amount of contacts that she's searching, the services that our townspeople are looking for, and those also are going to be important to be on our reporting, which I think is going to be, we need that stats because we
it
need.
could also give us useful information for things like if we want bus service or some sort of
Correct.
to justify other services. that
And
we might
any
want to
grants that might be out there that we have the numbers to back up. The evidence-based is what our goal is here. And I guess the last thing I want to say is that the monthly is never something that we would do, only because you have to, they want you to pay up front, and
Yeah.
because we're a municipality, we wouldn't be able to do that. So
Okay.
we'd probably be looking at yearly fees for these.
Okay.
And that's all I got, Madam Chair.
Eric, do you have any questions?
You
I do have a question, and it's kind of Karen's here too. It's the Shine Counselor thing, but maybe we want to talk about that when we do the COA piece of this.
So,
Either way, I would say go ahead.
yeah, if she's here, then we might as well.
Is that included in this set or is it separate? If it's in the COA piece, then we'll talk about that separately.
So Karen and I had talked about the Shine counseling. I'm going to the webinar that they're hosting at the end of July, but I believe
It's free.
Free. Oh, there's
yeah,
no fee for
there's
it.
no
Oh,
fee for it, so I just get to do it.
Okay, all right.
Only fee is her time.
Yeah, yes.
Right, well.
Maybe my sanity, not
No, you
necessarily
get
sure.
And as far as I think that all of these can just go under ARPA 03 wellness programming. I don't think we need a different project.
Okay.
I agree. I think that this is all appropriate under that category.
Yes, so,
Without any kind of reallocation, I think you could just spend it for appropriate.
Okay.
and you've talked to Jennifer about this. All right, then this one goes on in the.
One
We're
down.
good with this. Do
Mhm.
we need a motion for this? This is for you, Eric. Do we need a motion or can we just say, yeah, that's
We've
good?
already.
No,
We've
you've
already
already, there's no,
moved
the
well.
money's already been allocated. This is just an informational session.
Okay.
Just needs a stamp, a Veronica Kelly stamp.
Yeah.
I've got one. All right, thanks, Emily. This one, which one do we want to go to next?
I think the best one to go to would be the recreation department. They have a very large one and have already been extending money.
Okay, can I just take a minute to go through this top part since we have it up on the screen? So people can I just do that? So, the wellness programming, over the life of the ARPA funds for programming itself, for public safety and the community, including for opioid addiction, is $470,000. So what Emily's doing, and we broke it out in different departments with an amount, roughly $30,000 per year, for most departments. So COA a little differently because that came out a little differently with different types of programming. So that's what we're looking at here, is how these funds are going to be spent for each of the departments over the course of fiscal year 23. So, all right, with that, let's go to the recreation department.
Awesome. So I started, the very first page is just the June to when we started the fiscal year portion. We have already expended this money, so
We did have 7,500 for the
yes, we
first.
did. We had 7,500 and I put that at the top too, so that we could kind of follow along with it. The mental health first aid is something that they've already completed at the recreation department, as well as Emmy, I believe, has already signed up for the RRCA coaching certificate. And we had Cindy Karash come on June 30th. And I heard phenomenal things about her. They're even thinking about bringing her back next year. They were that impressed. The entire staff was able to go, which was amazing for the recreation department. And they shared the videos with me to show all the team builders that they were doing and the activities that they were working on. So that ended up totaling to 3,215 with a remaining balance of 4,205.
Okay.
Now we get into the money that we have not spent yet.
And before we get started, so that, this goes with Teresa's questions. Do you want questions as we go, or do you want to wait until you go through everything?
I'm happy to take questions as they come.
Okay.
Questions per page as might be a good
Okay.
way. to-
Okay, let's do
Yeah.
questions per page. I don't want to wind up with
Right.
questions so deep that we never get through the whole thing.
Yes,
which would be
exactly.
Typical for me.
Well, and part of the reason why I broke it down this way was to alleviate some of those questions as well. So that I specifically made sure that I included which dimensions of wellness it was going to cover for the teams. So that can all be seen in column 2. We have rough estimates and timelines of when we would like to proceed with these events or programs, little bits of summaries on what they are, and then where the funding comes from and how much we expect it to cost. So that is kind of why I broke it down this way, so that each category had a purpose and there were less questions, but I know that questions are going to come up, which is totally fine. The way that I did all of my ARPA funding was I personally met with each of the departments and asked them about what they needed. And so a lot of that was me bringing these giant Post-it notes with me and going through and talking about the areas of wellness. So all of this has been informed by the department. And I had many meetings back and forth with Emmy and Bonnie and her counselors about what they wanted to see out of this. Emmy had her own ideas and own thoughts already. She was very prepared for this. So all of the programs that we're looking at in some way, shape, or form fit some sort of a wellness dimension. Most commonly, you'll see physical, social, intellectual, and mental well-being. I can go through line by line if you want me to, or if you just want to do a brief overview of it, I can just say what the name of each is and then total it up at the end, or
I'm good with that. I have questions that I mean, I could go straight to questions, but maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's worth it to just go read the programs and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
And the total at the end. So are you guys good with that?
is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. So the very first line is just recreation program supplies. This would allow them to be able to do most of their programming through the year. We all know that kids are really rough on toys and puzzles and soccer balls and nets, and kids are just rough in general, so things break and need replacing. This will give them a quick way of being able to get some of those materials back. Bike rodeo has already happened. That was just a program that they were looking for to empower youth through their own personal experiences and also these crazy like bicycle shots and stuff like that.
Is that also through Safe Routes to School? Did they help out
Same
with that?
question.
I was just going to say, I do not know if that was with Safe Routes to School or not. I don't know if it was separate. I believe it was with Safe Routes to School.
Pretty
I
sure.
think that's how they got that.
Was the police involved in that?
Was this in May or is
No,
this
this was-
July 11th?
This was July.
Yeah, didn't we, the police also had this in their budget, and I know the police ran one as well, and I thought that was in May.
They did
There was a
they did a
May.
safe routes to school in May, but they did
Right.
this one, and I know that they had police involvement showing safety tips.
Correct.
Yeah,
So it's probably with, Safe Routes to School. I'm
Yeah.
sure of it.
okay.
The next would be the RRCA Race Director Certification. This is something Emmy believes that she should go for because it goes with that first section. There were 2 different certificates. This would be the one where she is qualified to run 5Ks. So if we have NM Cares nonprofit who is looking to do a 5K fundraiser, this would come in handy because it could be a community in town event. It also promotes the physical well-being of children and families. And then that way, if Emmy were looking to run some sort of a 5K, she wouldn't have to outsource to somebody else to run it for her.
Right.
She could do it on her own as well. She's looking to create a running club for families, which we will see later on in this outline. Again, the running club would be something that promotes physical well-being and mental well-being for families and youth who go to the recreation department as well as the broader community. The next is Summer Splash Day. That is a social and physical well-being event that she wanted to host for the kids. Safe Sitters would be the next line. And this is a very interesting program. This teaches young kids from grade 4 through 6 how to be safe while home alone. So what to do in the event of a fire breaks out or somebody's trying to break in, or who do you call, or it teaches kids how to be empowered and self-sustainable and protecting themselves, and gives parents peace of mind as well. And if we move on to the next page, Successfully Social is one of the bigger ones that we have. You'll see them a lot throughout this outline. We have decided to do a contract for no more than $9,500. Her name is Allison Marine. She is the director of Successfully Social. I always mix up those words. And she is supposed to be scheduled to do about 6 to 7 programs with us throughout the entirety of 2023, all the way until next year's budget. So she has about 6 or 7 different types of groups that she wants to run. A lot of it focuses on social emotional learning for children. Some of the examples that I've seen are laughter yoga, which is a great one. She's going to teach kids how to ask for help, especially with going back to school. How do you find a safe and trustable adult that you can talk to? How do you empower yourself and give yourself empowering words in the morning? How do you set yourself up for a routine and success? And Allison also plans on talking with parents on how we can transcend this, not beyond just working on it at the recreation department, but also working on some of these techniques at home with parents. So you'll see that she has a couple different mind over matter ones in here. And then later on, she has a couple bigger events that go kind of through the winter as well.
So with, the cyber safety, I hope that touches upon bullying and that sort of thing.
Yes, so cyber safety, there's 2 different ones that we were looking at. Cyber safety 1 would be for children so that they know how to be safe on the internet, talking about bullying. And then another one would be for parents. So parents know what to look out for and how to kind of navigate social media and what that looks like for their children. Part of that too, I believe, and I might need to have a conversation with Emmy about this again, also talks about the language that kids use, especially while playing things like Fortnite or Call of Duty. Now I'm racking my brain. Call of Duty, because I don't know about you guys, but I have seen many youth from ages 10 to 15 with extremely vulgar language towards each other. And it leads into bullying, and it leads into this culture of just aggressive, hostile behavior surrounding these video games. And it's not because the video games itself are in question, it's because of the way we're allowing each other to talk to each other. And so it teaches them a lot about communication and what kind of words we should and should not use and how language affects each other. So there is bullying aspects to that. The last one for fall would be Carnival Midway Day. This she would like to open up to the community as well, so that there is space for the rec department to specifically have this carnival midway, but also for the community to get involved. And we're hoping to do this kind of like as a back to school thing. We might have to change the date. There's some conversations about moving it to spring. But again, it would promote the physical and social well-being of the kids. So this is fall through winter, right? Fall? Yeah. Fall, no, summer through fall.
Okay, so
Matt-
let's stop here. All of this is a total estimated cost of 10,992. That's
Yeah.
summer through fall.
That is summer through fall.
So Teresa, go ahead with your.
Yeah,
question.
Madam Chair, so this is a new request, or is this 10,000 for, basically for Allison to provide these services, has that already been approved?
The monies that recreation can expend is approved. It's up to Emily to work with the department heads to see what fits their requirements for the things that they're hoping to see for their departments.
Yeah.
And so the purpose of what Emily is doing here is to show us how the funds will be expended.
Okay, that's what I
for
thought.
this
So,
fiscal year.
Right.
Yeah.
so my only question is not about the amount, because that's what I thought, that it basically, it was up to them. I'm a little concerned about a water event as a wellness event in lieu of the re-emergence of BA4 and BA5. And I'd just like to know a little bit about how you can have safety in the water. I'm sure there must be something I don't know about, but how do they keep that in a COVID resurgent safe? Do you know?
So that is a really good question. I do know that we would be partnering with, Crystal Entertainment. They would be the ones providing the services for water splash day events. So they come with their own insurance and their own staff to be able to run that. And they do it in 2 separate sections. So they do a morning event and then they do an evening event for 2 hours at a time. With the resurgence of COVID, I think that's something that we would all need to think about. I don't know what that would look like, but I think that would be something that we would have to discuss with Emmy, because I guess the recreation department as a whole.
This is an outside.
This is an outside
activity.
event.
So I guess I would be more concerned if it was inside. I also am in a pool every day that I possibly can be, so that's me, though. But at this point in time, I don't, other than taking the general precautions, is there a way to prevent? Really?
I think it's just something that we probably need to be cognizant of and discuss with Emmy and Crystal.
Okay, that sounds, it's just a question I wanted to bring up, so,
Yeah.
thank you.
Just take protective measures and do what we can.
Yeah, and maybe take the temperature of the where COVID is as we get closer to scheduling it.
Okay.
Make sure that
Okay.
they're taking whatever appropriate precautions are.
My questions were around, how is this advertised? Because these sound wonderful. And so
Well,
if
when I'm
that
when I'm looking at it, it's scheduled for next week sometime, isn't it? August 1st?
August 1st, 2
Yep.
weeks. Yeah,
It is.
because the summer program is in play right now. I
Right,
mean,
and it's gonna be
the kids are outside playing. I saw them this morning. And they're
Which is
inside and
very highly
outside.
attended this
So-
year. I mean,
Oh, they have a huge increase.
They had to hire extra
they had
staff.
to hire extra staff. Well, that's
Yeah.
what we're gonna
Yeah,
do
later on. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
trying to hire extra staff.
So it's, I'm looking at the time here. I do have a couple of questions, but
Yep.
they're around the carnival. What is the carnival? And how is it that it's
Carnival.
only open for an hour? 'Cause that sounds
Yeah.
like, it's only open for an hour?
Originally, we were supposed to be doing the carnival in tandem with Allison. We last minute decided to break those apart. And
Okay.
that's why there's some conversation about moving the carnival to a later date in the summer. Almost as like maybe a back to school event rather than in smack dab in the middle. Yeah, because
Okay.
we do want it open for not just the recreation department, but we also want a chance to open it up to the community and to invite community members to come to that as well.
That would be a good advertising mechanism for that.
Yes, exactly. So that is something that, I mean, I have to discuss a little bit more so that we can solidify a date, because as of now, we have not solidified a date with Crystal Entertainment for that Carnival Midway.
Okay, and this is again, the successfully social. Is there how many children do they allow?
That's a great question. So depending on the event, so for one of the larger events, we are going to cap the registration at 40. Emily is in charge of the registration. She's also
Okay.
in charge of finding a staff person to help. Eric and I have worked together on a drafted contract that I ran by Jen. Jen has approved of the contract, but I wanted to wait until we've gotten here because my second question about this contract with her, and the way that it will work out is that she will invoice after every event that she hosts for the amount that we have described on this outline,
Okay.
and then we will cut the check for her. But I wanted to know if Eric could be the signer for the contract rather than having to come back to the Board of Selectmen to go through the contract together.
Okay with that.
Yeah, I think probably that's what makes sense because it's the day-to-day stuff
Yeah, I think
that's going on.
and I've been working with Emily on it, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know, I'm
so
familiar
we
with it.
know what's up.
Yeah.
So, and all we would do is vote and say yes.
Right.
Wonderful.
So, okay.
So I will, as long as the board's okay. with
So I'm
that.
okay
Okay.
with that. Chaz, you're okay with
I'm
that?
okay with them.
Teresa, are you okay with, Eric being the signer on these contracts with these?
Yes, I
groups?
am.
Thank you.
So that takes us through all of summer and fall of 2022.
Okay.
I broke it down in between because I know that Emmy does run different sessions depending on the time of year. So that's why I broke it down between winter and spring. So you'll see again, there's another line for recreation program supplies that just kind of goes to the overhead. There's a couple more events being hosted by Allison through Successfully Social. So you would have the Mind Over Matter second session, a winter wellness program, Mind Over Matter third session, and then a larger May is mental health awareness.
Move forward.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I like your waving
Yeah.
finger.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say anything on that.
So we're on this page.
Yeah, we are on this page.
Okay.
So I just want to touch on the May is Mental Health Awareness. That would be a longer program that Allison is doing where it would take place in 3 hours. So she would do one specific social emotional learning activity for the first hour, a different one for the second hour, and third one for the last hour. And then it would open up into a mental health awareness it's not like a festival, like a community event where I am going to work with them to bring nonprofits and other resources into the community, kind of like we did for Earth Day, where people can have tables, and then that way there's access to these resources that we desperately
So
need.
you can bring in the Neshoba nursing,
Yes.
you can do.
Yep.
NM cares, you
Yep.
can do a lot, there's several other agencies.
There's several other
The
agencies.
ones in Groton we can bring in
Yep.
too, so that's a good idea.
And then again, it brings awareness to the fact that, you know, most people do struggle with mental health conditions, and it helps to break that stigma up again.
Number one focus this year.
That's the number one focus this year. So if we continue on to the next page, if you want to just go a little bit lower.
Here? Are we here?
Yep, we are there. You will see the second cyber safety consulting. And so that one is the one that deals with the parents or the children, whichever one we decide on first. A second safe sitter at home for anybody who was not able to make the first program, because we're going to cap the registration, I think, at 15 people. the running club, which is Emmy's initiative that she wants to start, which is why she's going for those 2 certificates.
I have a question about that one. Where would it be, since we can't use the track at the high school? Groton used to have a running program in the summers, in the evenings that you could do with your children, etc. And it was at the high school track.
Okay.
So I guess my question is where, location, that's all.
I
Something to
believe
think
she
about.
wanted to use the new trail.
The bike,
The bike trail. Yeah, I believe that's what she wanted to use
Oh,
with the new bike trail.
That's a thought.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is a
Wow.
thought, right,
It's 2 miles.
okay.
one
To go
into the
there and
other.
back and then learn about nature, and, you know, all those different things that come with that, but she wanted to use that
Okay,
as her basic.
That's good.
that is a good thought.
And then at the end, you will see so maybe I was supposed to take out that one. Okay. So, oopsie. So at the end, you will see Family Carnival Day. That is the larger event that we wanted to open up to the community. And that is it for recreation.
So what I had was, so I'm looking at money. So
Yep.
does anybody have any questions before I go the money route?
Nope, I'm very pleased with what I see.
Okay, I didn't see Teresa stand up. So, so I had 2,858 from the 7,500 that everybody had for the, few months.
Yep.
And then 4,285. So I see an $8,143 overage here. Not money's left over.
Okay.
Money left
Very
over.
different,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very different.
Well, that's very, very different. Okay, so that is because I did not add the original 4,000 from the first page. Yeah, I never added that back.
Say it again.
I don't know what I'm saying.
No, I think Veronica, I think you're correct.
Yeah,
That there remains an amount
right.
able to be spent in a future year.
Because you're saying this
Plus,
plus
yeah.
that last number got you to the 8,000. Okay, that's correct.
That
That's
is correct.
completely correct.
Okay, all right.
I just
So I'm calling it
forgot to put it in
legislation.
there like that.
Leftover fund,
Yes. So yes,
unexpended,
unexpended is, how much is it?
8,143.
8,143. Yep.
Okay,
Yes. So that is left over from the recreation.
all right. Thank you. Where do we want to go now?
The next
Thank
one,
you, Emmy, too,
I know,
and Bonnie.
Emmy and Bonnie did a lot of work with
Yes,
us,
they did.
and had a lot of incredible ideas and put up with me the whole time. So that's awesome. The next one I'd like to go to is the Council on Aging because Karen is here. Everybody see her lovely face out there?
Do you want to come up here? Drag a chair up and
Make that bigger.
make it bigger? You ask.
Slide for Dave.
Okay. So originally, the Council on Aging asked for different monies than what my other departments got.
Right.
So they were only allocated 4,000, and we can see right at the top that they were going to renew their license for chronic disease self-management program. We have decided to hold off on that. So that is why it is not included in this outline. Which means,
You mean this top part here is not included?
yes,
The
So-
3,100.
correct. Just for chronic disease self-management program, that 3,100 is not included in this. And I believe the matter of balance training also was taken out because we weren't doing the chronic self.
Yeah, and those are both taken out because of staffing shortages at this point.
So, the next thing that we focused on goes with grandparents raising grandchildren. And so we can see in the first column that we have a certificate in grandship family leadership. This is an evidence-based practice going on by the University of Maine
Should
Center.
I move to the next page?
Yeah.
for this? Okay, I'm gonna make it smaller now. And the problem with this is that if I shrink this out
Yeah.
of the way, I can't see if Teresa has her hand up.
Okay.
No, I think that's fine right there.
You guys can see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll monitor that for me.
Okay. So Karen and I worked very closely on this, and we came to the conclusion that the certificate in grand families leadership was extremely important in continuing to encourage and to promote grandparents raising grandchildren, especially because of COVID. We know that a lot of grandparents ended up taking custody of their grandchildren, or a parent had lost a job. Some people turned to substance use during that time because of the stress that people were under. And we tend to know that grandparents raising grandchildren don't often get the same support that a parent would raising their child. So this is something that we want to promote at the senior center. So I believe that doing this certificate is going to promote the intellectual wellness of those who are going to be putting on these events. We have not identified the people who will take this, but we do know that we can register and that the fee is $85 per person. So I've put in there for 2 certificates.
Do we know roughly what that cohort might be? The amount of people, do you think, that would attend?
That would attend. I can think of at least a dozen off the top of me.
Okay, good. Okay.
The next line goes to grandparents raising grandchildren and actually hosting events at the senior center where we would be able to get together with grandparents and grandchildren. So one of the programs that I would like to host would be a grandparents and grandkids game night. I've actually talked with the library because they already have some inflatable games. I'm thinking that either we could buy more inflatable games for them to keep on stock at the library and then for us to be able to use. But I'm thinking I've seen those like inflatable chessboards and checkers and Connect Four, putting a better spin on what a family game night is. And in partnership with that, while they are playing these games, we will also have services set aside and available to them. So I'm thinking of bringing in the DCF reps about the Kinship Navigator program, which I think would be very helpful because while the kiddos go play with each other, you get a little distracted, grandparents can then get the resources that they need, and it's still in a fun environment for all of them. The second one would be a bullying and self-esteem workshop for kids. This would be run through, it is called Animal Adventures. I've worked with them before. They're phenomenal. The guy who started Animal Adventures actually used to use substances himself, and he was a young parent trying to figure out how to be a parent. He has now taken all of his mental health and his stressors, and he's turned it into something good where he rescues and saves animals, and he uses this as an opportunity to talk about differences between animals and how the ecosystem continues to be sustainable and work together even through those differences. So this would be an amazing program, especially for low-income children who might not have access to experiencing things like that. They can come directly to us. I mean, they've got kangaroos, chinchillas, like depending on what type of program you would want to do, but this is the only one that I saw that focused on bullying and self-esteem and him sharing his story with those kids and with grandparents who probably need to hear it as well. Again, I plan on pairing this with other resources. I have not identified which resources I will pair it with, but there will be an opportunity for more resources to come in on this. And then lastly, it would be a grandparents versus grandkids game night again, but this one's different because we want them to be doing physical activities. So again, partnering with the library, one of the things our seniors love to do is Wii bowling and Wii sports. So we would love to host a competition between the grandkids and the grandparents to be able to like battle each other in Wii bowling or Super Mario Karts. Again, pairing it with services that they need and making a community event out of it. So this is something I am really stoked about and really looking forward to.
We can tell.
Well, Karen and I spent a lot of time thinking about how we could really make this engaging. So are there any questions on that one before I move on? Okay, great. Next one would be a Triad program. Now, Triad is something that has been done in a couple different towns, Pepperell being one of them. It basically builds a partnership between seniors in the community and the police and fire department. So some of the programs we see out of that are the Yellow Dot program, which would alert an EMS person if a senior were to get into a car accident or something tragically to happen. They know if they see this yellow dot on their car that they have medication that they need to have access to, and there should be a card in the car that tells them what medication it is. There's other programs that we can run with this, which could be the card of life and an emergency kit. I would just have to buy some supplies. I'd partner with the fire station and with the police station. They would come in, we would work together on building these safety kits. It could include Band-Aids, first aid, their medications list, a home contact sheet, all of that kind of stuff. It's just dependent on what we make of it. But with this, one of the most important key things would be to build a council between fire, police, and seniors, where instead of it being the Council on Aging, they would actually have their own council where they would meet and continue to brainstorm and think about other programs that they can partner with the police and fire department to build that relationship. So that one I'm only asking for 1,500. The last two, aquatic pool access. We know that the seniors at the senior center are extremely engaged. They really like to do things, and we are having record numbers right now with people coming in for the program. I believe we were at 80 the other day, right? Yeah. 80 people came in to be a part of. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. The one thing that we've seen a little bit is that sometimes we have some difficulty having them do more physical programming. And so we believe that giving them access to a pool would be great, because then they can, I've torn my ACL and meniscus. I can tell you right now how great water therapy is. It takes the strain and the pressure off my joints. And this would be very helpful, especially for seniors who are experiencing chronic illnesses or arthritis. It gets them moving, it gets them in the water, and it's fun and engaging. And I've already talked with the YMCA. They would be happy to partner with us. We would use the Roadrunner. We could have 12 people at a time. We could go once a month. Each one of them would get a day pass. And then they would invoice us. We would send them the check. Oh, I'm sorry. So the last one would be the dementia-friendly programming. This is something that I know Pepperell has been running. They call it dementia-friendly cafes. And so we would partner with Bernadette, who is our dementia nurse. And we would also most likely be soliciting and partnering with some of the local restaurants like Sweet and Salty, who just opened, or Cliff's downstairs.
Yes.
Sophia's, to get some food and breakfast stuff, and then we would do dementia-friendly programming with the seniors. And it also would give access to those who are taking care of their parents with dementia or Alzheimer's, to get resources on how they do so. I know that the senior center only allocated $4,000. So I'm requesting that whatever is left over from the police, fire, and EMS be rolled into the senior center. So that is the only thing that I wasn't sure of, if we could do that.
We did so we did a total of 20,000. is what we did. Oh, can I just ask a question about the chronic disease management program? That was an every 3-year thing. Where are we on that cycle?
We have to reapply for the license and do some retraining
For FY23?
for FY23. I'm hoping after today's meeting that I can get that ball rolling and we can get that back into our curriculum, because it is very beneficial.
And that isn't included in here, correct?
Correct, not for this year.
So that would mean that we would need additional. Is that what you're saying?
4,700 additional,
Right,
which we already have in rec. Right?
Yeah. we have a,
We have that 8,134.
let's get out of my head.
I think that as we go through this, I think you'll notice that the police and fire are not going to be spending their
Right.
full allotment either. And so there's an excess of funds
Yes.
Right.
across the board to be able to reallocate some extra funds to the council on aging.
And I think that was the idea. I mean, the 30,000 was kind of a number out of the
We
hat.
just, yeah,
Yeah,
And
That's how you came up with the large number,
right.
right.
is by
then
allocating
divide
these
it.
numbers,
Yeah.
little ones ahead. So we're going to make
Yeah.
a large number, but I think the actual account is just the large number. And so
Right.
I don't even
Yeah.
think it would take an extra vote to do this. I think it's just as long as the Board of Selectmen is okay with this plan.
Right.
You
Okay,
would need
so
to reallocate.
we're spending, so I'm doing.
No, thank
excess
you.
numbers
You're the math
here.
girl.
Yeah, right. Okay. Not so much anymore. More. Okay,
So I'm the shrink and she's the numbers gal.
I'm the people person.
And it's 3,000 for the 3,100.
3,100 for that.
So if I subtract from the 8,143, the 4,700, this is
Mhm.
just working with rec. and
Yep.
The other, I haven't put in the, 900 or 1,000 for the. But if I subtract the 3,100, we're still $343 to the good.
Yep.
So,
We haven't even gotten to police and fire.
Right,
right,
so,
We like that.
and that's our last one to look at, right?
It's our second
Yeah.
to last one to look at,
So,
because we still have the NM cares.
I think you should do, I think that you should do both.
yes.
Everything that you're saying, plus the 3,100.
Plus
credit-
add the chronic
the-
disease.
Chronic
And
disease,
that's every
absolutely.
3 years, so
I
that
think
would be,
That's like, that's a no-brainer. That should be.
I think
Definitely should
the
be.
chronic disease thing is challenging, not just for the funding, but for the staff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we are hopefully
And that is,
taking care of
that's
that
something
summer.
that Karin will discuss a little later.
Later in our program.
so we have, how long will it take to do police? Because
I can just run through it very quickly. Police and fire, I did the same exact thing. I went with them, I talked to them, I asked them about what their needs were. Yeah, exactly. I know, I'm sorry, it's so long. I will just talk about the most important things on here. Basically, the two that I got back from them after putting out this wellness survey to them and also going meeting with staff, talking with Gary and talking with Chief Sartell. One of the biggest things that I heard was that there was a severe lack of access to a gym and that they felt like they didn't have any way to blow off any steam. And when we think about it, police officers and firefighters experience traumatic things nonstop. So having an access or an outlet to be able to get rid of some of that physical stimulation would be helpful for them. And we've identified that there is a spot in the fire station number 3 closest to Cherry Hill where we could actually buy gym equipment and have it staged there. My thinking is that I can also partner this with Maya, where I would be able to invite them out here to do like a ribbon ceremony, and then we would have a physical trainer teach them some workouts, which I think would promote their wellness, their physical and their mental wellness, as well as they would be able to have access to this equipment, both police and fire, on and off duty.
I see Teresa's hand is up. Is that for now or was that from before?
Just for now.
Just came up.
Teresa, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I'll wait till we get to the end of it. I just have a question at the end.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay. The other thing that was most important to them, and this really did come from the fire department more than it came from the police department, was access to emotional support animals. And the original idea is we thought about possibly having somebody adopt an emotional support animal and that we were going to have him housed at the fire department. That didn't end up working out the way that we had hoped. So maybe that's something we think about in the future, but there will be a possibility for us to have increased access to emotional support animals, which has been proven to help people a lot through different studies. But what I can do is also partner with Jennifer Beckford at Family Continuity, because she also runs a informed support group from a paramedic and EMS perspective. So I can partner with her and we could do some programming around that when the emotional support animal is there. I am still trying to identify where I get this emotional support animal. I have looked, I have researched, I have talked to people. I will find it.
There's one in Devon.
There is one in Devon.
Yeah, so the one at Devon's is Clear Path for Veterans. Unfortunately, it's only available for veterans, but a lot of the people on our police and fire do have some veteran services. And like I said, they do provide training from the beginning, so you can bring in one of, at the early age, your own dog, or provide you with a dog to train from the beginning. Okay.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the programs that I was looking into. I just got to solidify somebody who could
Yeah, I have all their contact information. I can send it to you, but like I said, it's just for veterans.
Okay, thank you, Teresa.
As far as I know, at least the free dogs are. Maybe they have something a little bit extended.
Okay. So those were the two asks that I got from them. Other than that, I know that they're extremely busy, so I did not get any feedback after I came up with this. I would like to talk to them one more time just to make sure that all of this was okay with them. So I dedicated monies aside to professional developments for both of the departments. Each department would get $4,000, and they would be able to work amongst themselves to identify who they would like to go to these professional development trainings. I identified some sites that I think would be good. And then the very last one was just for speakers in in-person trainings where I could work with Sarah, I can never say her last name, Sarah Gayer, which is a suicide loss survivor and a master's level clinician. She's got 20 years of experience and her focus is on talking with and to people in the protective services. So firefighters and police officers, she has come highly recommended. Also partnering with NAMI to get in a couple different trainings. One of them would be sharing your stories with law enforcement, which is a program that allows young adults and youth with mental health conditions to share from their perspective how law enforcement and them can work together on things. Again, the only two identified things were those first two rows. The rest I worked with on what I have.
My question had to do, this is with the gym equipment.
Yes.
Is there an issue with insurance or liability with that? You know, is it okay that was my only, I think it's a good idea. I really do.
That's a good question. I think that's a good question. We just have to.
That was the only thing I would check into, but that
Okay.
I would not say, don't do this.
Okay.
You know, I think it's a good idea.
I do know that Maya does do a grant, and one of the things was gym equipment for some of their areas of work too. So they might be a good resource to reach out to and figure out how they've navigated that.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. So, I'm sorry. Oh, Teresa, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know too that Emily and I have been working together with Chief May. He has a book out on PSTD, crisis. It's his book. I have it right here. And he'd like to do a reading and a presentation to the town. So we're working under this, maybe just so we have a little booth or something. Yeah.
Is this part of the speakers?
Yep.
In-person training thing?
Yep.
So
So
is Sartell in with this?
say again?
Separate from that?
This
Okay.
would be separate. And Teresa, I did send you an email on that. I did not include that in here because I believe
okay.
that
Yeah,
needs to be
because
discussed.
there shouldn't be any cost with it unless we wanted to bring a little food, and people can do that themselves anyways. So,
Okay. Yeah, we can talk offline about that a
Okay.
little bit further. Okay.
All right,
we also, just so that you know, we talked to the current chief and Chief Shepherd as well.
Did you talk to them, Teresa? I have not spoken to them.
Yes, I have.
Okay, okay. Awesome, thank
Okay,
you.
but that isn't something that's. coming
That's
from
not
the
with this,
selectmen. This is something completely different, right, Teresa?
Yes.
All right, all right. So,
Last one is NM Cares.
okay, so let me just go.
Fly through it.
So we have 15,500 left in the police, left over from the police fire.
Yep.
Because 8,000 fewer from this and
Yep.
the 7,500 from the other.
Right.
I'm just keeping. So good.
I love it, thank you. Tell me how
Why
much.
should anything change, right?
Okay, the very last one is the NM Cares nonprofit. Very similarly, I met with them. We did the Post-it notes. We talked a lot about what their needs and concerns were. I did a lot of talking with Chaz as well to see what kind of needs came out. The very first line is access to a recovery coach. We do know that there is a lot of stigma surrounding opioid use in the surrounding towns, Townsend included, Pepperell, Ashby, and a couple other places. So the recovery coach would be a good resource for people to go to at the NM Cares drop-in center to be able to meet with somebody. This would have to be a contract. We're thinking about 10 hours a week. I did reach out to Jen today to specify how we would do this since we're doing a transfer of funds to the nonprofit. And I know that we do need to keep certain information or get certain information from them to make sure that they follow through. So I'm just waiting for those clarifications from Jen, but she does have all of this and I did ask those questions. So we have not identified somebody to be that recovery coach yet, but we do have somebody in mind for it. And it would be somebody that we have worked with in the past. The second contract would be with the Spanish American Center. They're an amazing nonprofit located in Leominster, and they get a lot of people from Townsend. And so this would be great access for those in Townsend who do not have mobility to be able to meet with a domestic violence counselor. Again, they would be seated over at NM Cares, and it would gain more traction for the nonprofit, as well as break that stigma of not talking about abuse. So this again would be a contract. We do have them in mind. We don't have a particular person, and we do need to flesh out what we would like the scope of work to be. And that is something I have on the books to talk with Lauren and with the Spanish American Center about. And actually, I would love to have you a part of that. And I meant to ask you. Okay. The next would be access to recovery career services. So I originally had put contract in there. I have gotten rid of that contract piece. I actually just want to partner with them to host 3 separate events and not do a contract. This would give access to those who are experiencing substance use or substance use disorder, access to get back into a career as they're recovering. So we could do things like workshops on creating a resume and a cover letter and how do you interview and what is motivational interviewing techniques. Those types of programs would be helping those who have experienced this and are in recovery to get back into the workforce, which I think is great. Something that we should be promoting because they are functioning human society.
Well, they have resources there at the,
Exactly.
at the center.
So it opens a door for them.
Yep.
So those would be 3 different events, and I would work with Lauren directly to figure out where and when we are hosting those. And then they would be applicable for the entire community to be able to access. Wildflower is an organization located over in Springfield, Massachusetts, but they support healing and empowerment for Massachusetts communities and people who have been impacted by psychiatric diagnosis by doing learning opportunities, advocacy, and alternative healing practices. They can provide in-person training to not only NM Cares, but also to the larger community, including police officers and firefighters, as well as town hall employees and even just school communities. So I think that they would be great to also bring in for a couple of training events. And the last two, the Justice Resource Institute, JRI, has a Building Communities of Care Informed workshop that I believe could be highly helpful. We can adapt it a little bit. I've already talked to them. We couldn't do a 16 to like 24-hour training, but we might be able to do a 3 to 4 hour training or something smaller and break it up. Roughly, they gave me a couple quotes, so I just put in there what their maximum was, so that if we did decide to go through with it, we would already have the funds set aside. But seeing as how we do have leftover funds, I think we should be okay. And then Lauren specifically asked for a line where she could work on getting her own presenters, and she really wants to get back into the school systems and do some more drug prevention trainings and webinars. The other thing that we thought about doing is actually partnering the NM Cares fundraiser with the Recreation Department, so that there is an ability to be able to reach kids and youth about drug use and prevention. But that is it. They're the ones who reached their limit the most. They were the very first ones who got right up there, and were incredible in listening and brainstorming and advocating. They've been incredible to work with.
Well, you can plug our video too.
Yes, we did. We were able to do a community conversation where we brought in professionals, people who have experienced substance use before, and those who have been affected by it, including our police officer, we had Sergeant Reedy. We had Sergeant Reedy join the conversation. I moderated it with Nate from the Healing Communities Study. And we talked about the stigmatization of substance use here in Townsend, as well as some of the things that we could do to promote talking about this and breaking that stigma, as well as what the resources around the area were and what areas we still need work in. And that is going to be broadcasted on social media by TCAM, and I believe at some point as well hosted on Channel 9, right? Okay, so that others can access it, and we're hopeful that through these open conversations, we can continue to make progress by breaking that stigma and having more conversations about this kind of work.
All right.
ARPA.
Yeah.
Bam.
So I think on the opioid thing, we're getting part of the settlement. I know it's a small amount of money, but we have to make sure that we use it for one of these programs, or it has to be used for opioid prevention somehow within the town.
Okay.
So that's my only comment on that.
I would like to be able to at least pay for rent or something for the drop-in center, if we can do that.
If I don't know what, I haven't attended any of those.
There is another one coming up that I plan on going to, so.
I haven't gone to any of those webinars, so if it's an allowable expense,
Okay.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. We have $8,600 then left, the 7,500 from because there was 37.5 in
That's
the
good.
first year. You did good.
I think good.
So by my calculations and subtracting out the 968 for what you need, we have 23,475 over before any opioid benefits involved.
Right.
So that's pretty good.
Okay. Well,
So we have that left. I say over. You don't mean that. I mean, we have it
Extra.
left.
Extra.
So yeah, excellent.
Are there any other questions for me?
I do not have that.
just a statement, continue on doing what you're doing.
Thanks.
This is what we had in mind when we allocated money. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have made my job very easy, so. Awesome.
If someone's coming in to take that position, there needs to be money to play with. to use. So we are- we
Doing this without
appreciate
any
it.
money would be much harder.
Which, yeah, it would be much, much harder.
So now it's getting the year to go for everybody and then starting to plan the next year.
Yes. Which is good because I think we have identified some things that we would like to be reoccurring already. And I plan on trying to evaluate those programs as well so that we have an evaluation process to show.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming in.
I'm staying for a little bit.
All right, do we have Vinny with us?
Vinny had something come up and is not able to be with us this evening. I
Um,
just texted him to try to find out.
So do we want to wait on that and just go into the regular agenda? Do we want to look at what's there just to have a, Yeah.
Why don't maybe, as part of my section, we could just look at it very quickly.
okay, let's do that.
Instead of having a-
All right, so we're gonna move our 7 o'clock was a review of the grant admin report. We will move that to 5.2 and Eric will go over that with us then. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right, so now we are back to appointments. So this is section 3.2. Let me just make sure I hit everything else on here.
Yep, I think you did a good job.
Have, right?
Yep,
Okay, so 3.2, is there a motion to appoint Linda Durrett to the Cultural Council for a 3-year term to end June 30th, 2025?
So moved.
Okay.
Any discussion on that? Yes. Okay. Roll call vote then, Teresa
Teresa A. Morse, yes.
Cass Sexton Duranian, yes?
and Veronica Todd. All right, welcome back, Linda. All right, 3.3. Is there a motion to designate the town clerk to appoint the police officers and the constables to work elections through June 30th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
So we are going to, she's going to be taking care of the appointment. We don't have to do it for each election. She's going to take care of it for the year.
Yeah, because we don't usually appoint constables to work in an election.
Right.
Or
This
or
is not
police.
something that the Board of Selectmen has ever had on their plate, and they
Right.
tweaked the state statutes that said that the board would be the appointee or their designee. And so in this case, we're just going to designate the town clerk who's had this in her purview
That's the
for
way it's
years.
worked all along.
Yeah, and
That's fine with me.
makes sense.
We need to vote on that?
Yes, we do. So, roll call vote, Teresa
Teresa A. Morse, yes.
Cass Sexton Duranian, yes?
and Veronica Bell, yeah. All right, 3.4. Motion to appoint Alexis Tucieri and Tim Burson as summer rec counselors in the rec department. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair, is this a paid position out of the fund for recreation, or is this paid for out of the budget?
It's out of their receipts. That's typically how they pay their summer people, right, Eric?
Yes, and Teresa, this is as a result of a large number of people that signed up this summer. They exceeded the number of kids that they thought they were going to have, so they had to hire some extra staff.
That's good to hear.
A
Okay,
good
thank you.
thing.
They had 80, I think, the other day.
It's a lot. Yes.
So, roll call vote, Teresa
Teresa A. Morse, yes.
Cass Sexton Duranian, yes?
and Veronica Bell, yes. So welcome to Alexis and Tim.
As an aside, at least 3 of our staff members have their kids in the summer rec program. At least.
Right?
Well, that's good.
in the room.
Welcome aboard.
All right, and they could be here tomorrow.
Yeah, could be here tomorrow.
Yeah, we had to do that last time. All right, so, moving on, I think we've moved 4.1 down to 5.2. 4.2 we deleted, so we're on to ARPA projects. So the first is the COVID cleaner assignment. Do you want me to pull up the, should I do a screen share?
Yes,
Before I. Let me get off the thing that I want to share. So if you look at, oh no, well, okay. back. No, but I'll keep that one. I didn't put it up. It's this thing. All right. Sorry again, this is what we're looking at. All right, so for the COVID cleaning, we had voted that as a project, but because it didn't need to be paid out of ARPA funds, because FEMA was covering it up through the end of June, we did not have it assigned a number.
Mhm.
FEMA is still covering it through the end of 2022, but only at 90%. And so ARPA funds are going to need to cover 10%. Up
To the end of the year.
to the end of the year, to the end of 2022. So with that in mind, now I'll go to screen share. This is the right thing. You know, it's kind of teeny. Yeah, this is it. All right, so what I did, and I didn't get a new one of these. I had this is through the end of June, I believe. For payroll, yes, 6/30/2022. How much did we spend for this? And it comes out, if I'm reading this right, we've spent $12,195 over the course of the year. Because
That's
these
not
were
out of CARES.
reclassified. This was out of CARES.
Yeah.
Well, FEMA, it's out of FEMA.
Yeah.
Right.
So it wasn't, but it is what we have spent. And then also cleaning supplies have come out of there to the tune of $5,000, I believe. Look at that. So what we're looking at is about 18,000. So if you cut that in half, because it's 6 months until the end of December. All right, if you cut that, so if you take 12,000 and 5,000, make it 18,000, so 9,000 is what we have to pay for half the year. And we're paying 10% of that.
So 900.
900. And then the other 9,000 is ours to pay, because assuming FEMA doesn't pick it up for the next 6 months, we have to pay it in its entirety.
Correct.
Should we keep this cleaning?
Through
additional
FY23.
Cleaning, and I think at least that there's benefit of it. So I think we should assign and vote to assign a new ARPA project for, and we did already count money in our budget for this. And it's added into the total, but we don't have a project. So I think we should have a project for COVID cleaning that we assign $10,000 to for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Yes, I mean, we're hopeful that we're gonna get the same reimbursement on the supplies as we are gonna get on I think that's
On the
what
cleaning.
that
Okay,
was indicated, so.
let me pop up another. I have the email that Jennifer sent. I don't know if it went into that sort of, all right, the reimbursement rate goes from, they extended the deadline again for FEMA costs until the end of the calendar year. The reimbursement rate goes from 100% to 90% starting July 1st.
Sure.
And so
We're anticipating that that's gonna be for not just the salary for the wages for the cleaner, but also for the supplies.
that's what I'm assuming.
So $10,000 hopefully should be enough. And then we can reevaluate this as we go along through the year and make sure that we feel like it's still an appropriate expenditure of funds. That doesn't lock us into, we don't have to spend it all, but
We're floating out there 75,000 that we had put for the life of the ARPA funds. So if we, so I'll
Well,
ask
that
Jennifer
would
to
this go
assign
into
them.
that other cost that. Where does this come, would,
there was, the town had set aside $75,000 just for COVID cleaning.
right,
Yeah.
And so this $10,000 would come
Give it a
from that,
number.
but it doesn't have a
Correct.
number yet.
So we need to get a number. I got you.
Yes.
Oh, I
So
got
that's the vote that BOS will be taking
We
right now.
kind of
is we will
saved
assign
the
it to
money. We
project.
didn't spend
Right.
it for anything else. And so we're gonna take 10K of that and
Right.
give it a number.
Right.
And, and drop that to 65K. So that way, because we don't know, we might only need the cleaning for another 2 years.
Right.
Or we might need it the entire time.
Yep.
And we have until 2025 to assign that money to a project.
2024,
Sorry, 2024. to
Yeah.
Assign that money
And
to a
then-
project.
correct. And then after that, it's all, you have to go with.
You have to go with what you put
Right,
it in.
what you put it into, so, and. All right, so is there a motion to assign a project number with 10,000K in it to the COVID cleaning? Do we even have to do that if we've already?
I think it probably is good form to do that. That way we
Do
can
that.
just tell Jennifer the
to-
board is
Because
active
we
on
do
this.
have the cleaning / disinfecting couple buildings.
Right.
So is there a motion to assign a project number to the cleaning, disinfecting public buildings project with the intent of spending 10,000 in fiscal year 24?
So moved.
I'm gonna have to listen to that. If there's a second,
Again, Teresa indicated that she may be off and on, but.
oh, okay, I will second it then. All right, so it's, Chaz made the motion, I am seconding it. All those in favor?
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes.
Veronica Cal, yes. Teresa, are you there?
Yeah, just couldn't get off there. Teresa A. Moore, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now, we're going on to 5B, which is the reallocation for an assistant director, program coordinator. So should I bring this up? This is 5B, 5.02. You stop the share, so I can just fly through these rows at these two. And then I'll share again. You can't. Sometimes you can make this fun.
I appreciate the narration.
All right, so what do we want up first? Probably not the post, or do we want to do the posting and the job description first? Or do we want to look at
I
numbers?
think we should look at numbers first,
Okay,
if that's okay.
that's fine.
If that makes sense.
Right, let me get the screen share. Hopefully I have the- All right, this is your letter, but we don't need to. Okay, sorry, it's a little bit sideways, guys.
You can rotate it.
How do I rotate it?
Down the bottom, see the little.
The little, see the arrow? It rotates.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
Magic.
Yay.
The technology
The
is.
technology.
Feedback. I've got it on the screen, so it's good.
Yes.
All right. I don't think one. You have any? You do. Thank you. Okay. All right. so
Am I on?
You are on. It's all yours.
So, a year ago, we, at the Council on Aging Senior Center, were approved to get an assistant director / program coordinator position. And as the negotiations were going on, our program coordinator took another position in air as the director there. And we were kind of cruising for a while. Things were going okay. We had a new program coordinator come on at 19 hours a week. Unfortunately, for medical reasons, she has not been able to continue that position. So now that the position is open again, I would like to request that the assistant directorship be put back on the table. And one of the reasons for that is the numbers. You know, as you are all well aware, we just got 2,000 square feet added to our building, and it is being utilized tremendously, as they say. I just crunched the numbers, and we've had a 71% increase in active patrons for the first 6 months of this year. We've had a 234% increase in the events that they are participating in, and the average number of patrons in the building per day has increased 166%. Pre-COVID, we had maybe about 60 people a day coming in, and now we are up to, let's see, what was it in June? 73.5
Per day.
per day.
That's some good numbers.
Those are some good numbers, considering that except for Wednesdays, we're only open from 9 to 3. Wednesdays we're open until 8. So I am hoping that since the Board of Selectmen had approved $11,000 to be used for kitchen equipment, that money was actually, that equipment was actually paid for by an earmark grant we got from the state. So that money is back in the ARPA funds. And I am hoping that we can at least use those funds to fund an assistant director, program coordinator position at the senior center.
Can you just explain for the assistant director program coordinator, you have your columns are municipal and ARPA. So you're saying that the money that is budgeted already.
That is money that is already in our budget.
Yeah.
It's the
16,550. And so
the allocation would be the 18,000.
the 18,000. So, and 11,000 of that would come from the money that was already agreed to pay for the kitchen
So it would only
equipment.
be 9,000.
So it would only be $7,104.70.
So
but paid by another grant.
The $11,000 we paid.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see what
Yeah.
you're saying. Okay, so you would need another 7,170
Yes.
is what you're saying.
Yes.
I'd like to ask a general question
Sure.
that doesn't have anything to do with Council on Aging. When we use ARPA funding for, like we have been, is this going to be increasing our insurance and all of that kind of stuff? And are we
Oh, you mean for positions?
correct?
Okay, so talking about positions, the funding, depends on how you look at it.
It all depends, as a Jedi once
it all-
said. Right?
It all depends.
Yeah.
So,
Certain point of view.
when we did positions, when we did the calculations for the 2 positions that are being funded right now under ARPA,
Mhm.
one of them is actually using what was the assistant director program coordinator money. So ARPA funds are not paying for that. That's all in the existing budget.
Correct.
And one of them is only a 30-week position, but we budgeted it at the same amount as the other position, thinking that those funds would be kind of rolled in somehow.
Yes.
So that's taken care of. And then we have an employee that we're paying this fiscal year for benefits. And those funds will be, who's not currently working, our former TA.
Yeah.
So we have those funds that are already budgeted for FY24 for an additional benefits, health benefits.
Okay.
So that's my crazy thinking. That's the way I think about it.
So my question specifically would be, when we are using ARPA funds for employment, that is increasing our insurance and all of that.
It's potentially increasing the benefits cost on the back end.
Exactly.
Yes, and so
Depending on whether a person takes the.
right, and so you can then,
That's correct.
you
You
can,
have to budget.
we can make a determination as to whether or not the ARPA funds should be paying for those benefits as part of their employment, in other words, you have your salary and wages, but that's not the only thing that it costs the town to add a new position, so we can add.
I don't want to be surprised at the end of the year having to put more money into that account
Sure, I think.
that we haven't budgeted for.
Sorry.
I hate those transfers.
This is one of the accounts that in almost every municipality, including Townsend, because you have to budget for everybody getting benefits and everybody doesn't get benefits.
Right.
There's almost always a surplus in
Okay.
this account at the end of the year.
Okay.
So, you can, my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that Townsend budgets for every full-time employee potentially getting benefits
At the family.
at the family rate, which is the very conservative way and appropriate way to do it. Some towns budget it actuarially, which is where they look at trends and see how many people actually take it, and it reduces what they have to budget in that line.
Right.
So if we did it that way, we would be in trouble. Since we're budgeting everybody getting it at the family rate, we're always going to have money at the end of the year in that account, and we could probably for one fiscal year, knowing that we're going to have a position that's getting benefits now that is not going to be renewed in FY24.
Mhm.
I think it would probably be relatively safe to float an offer of benefits for one position, understanding that almost always there's going to be a surplus in that account because everybody doesn't take benefits and everybody doesn't take it at the family rate.
So,
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Teresa, go ahead.
Yeah, how many hours is this position?
It's 30-hour position.
I can pop
And-
up the.
And in Townsend, 30 hours or more is full-time, correct?
20.
20 or more, thank you.
Well, it's not full-time, but it's required to be eligible for benefits. It's
Oh,
20
okay.
hours or more.
And I do have another question.
Yeah.
So next year, this will be part of your budget then
Yes.
for next year.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
And one thing to keep in mind is next year, our formula grant goes up considerably because it will be based on the 2020 census.
Yeah.
And if need be, we could use some of the formula grant to pay for that position as well.
Okay. Because I want to make that sustainable.
Yeah.
And that's what my only concern using ARPA funds for positions. I just want to make sure that we're hiring people that we need them, and I just want to make sure it's a sustainable
Yeah.
position.
So we have this. This is
And
the-
when we say these are benefit positions, that we're talking health benefits, do we also include pension, are any of these positions pensioned?
Everything over 20 year is required to be offered to be part of the retirement system. Yeah.
Okay.
For 20 hours.
And how much, I'm sorry, I'm still trying to learn, how much is our share and how much is the employee share?
So for health insurance and other like dental insurance, those benefits, it's 75-25. 75 on the town and 25 on the employee.
And
The retirement benefits the requirement for retirement benefits is laid out in the state statute. I think it depends on your salary. The employees are mandated to put in 9%. And then at a certain salary level, they have to put in 2 more %. So they're mandated to put in 11. And I'm not 100% sure what the town's match is, but that's determined by the retirement board.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So should we?
That's my
That's
attempt at filling
the project request form.
Now you have to turn it around again.
I don't think we need to see that.
How's that?
There you go, upside
All
down.
right, perfect.
That chicken scratch there.
Okay, so. This is the one of the first uses of this form. We're gonna look at a second use.
Yours is gonna be better.
Well, that's where my work on that.
Mike's writing it out right now. Yeah.
So,
I didn't know which one to put in there.
I'm gonna make everybody please. Okay, so let's see. Meals assessment. We already have the meals.
Yeah,
assessment
that's,
in.
she's already being
That's
paid.
already part
Yeah,
of the.
I just wanted to put the whole budget up there.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
the vote that I believe the board would be taking would be to reallocate the $11,000 from the kitchen equipment and to allocate the remaining $7,104.70.
from.
From-
wellness.
Well, either from, we could do it from wellness, or you could do it from other COVID expenses, or you could do it from the COVID cleaner money. It would be up to the board to make a determination.
I don't want to touch that.
If you take it from, we know that there's excess money in this year's allocation for wellness. You could,
Which we do. and
we already
so-
know that, so you could take it from that, and
Oh, that's a good
And
idea.
adjust.
That's a good.
And-
that way, that
And this
all
position will probably be.
all
doing some of
future
that
years would
stuff.
look the same for everybody, and we still leave that buffer in the other COVID expenses.
Yeah.
If
I like that
something
idea.
unexpected
Yeah.
comes up.
I'm on board.
Okay, so, is there a motion to add an ARPA project for
The assistant director.
assistant director for FY 23. CLA, assistant director for FY 23, and allocate 18,000, is that enough?
Well, I think what you want to do is you want to reallocate 11,000 from the kitchen equipment
Let's do, okay,
and allocate $7,000 from,
Well,
and reallocate $7,000 from wellness.
um,
The $7,104.70 from wellness.
okay, add an ARPA project for the COA assistant director for FY 23 and reallocate 11,000 from ARPA 16, just the freezer, the equipment for meals,
mhm.
the industrial refrigerator, and $7,104.70. I hope you're right. 105. Maybe we should just do 8,000.
I was thinking that.
Let's just do an 8,000
If there's an overage, well, they can get roast beef.
from ARPA 03. Unexpended FY 23 allocation.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you, Teresa. All right.
That's
any
the way we
further
do it.
discussion?
so just catch me up. Of the 11,000, was that originally allocated at opera?
Yes,
So
it's ARPA
we're
16.
we're reallocating that to the director assistant, but only 7,000 of it, right?
No.
See, I'm confused.
We're reallocating the entire 11,000 from the kitchen equipment, which is ARPA 16. And we're reallocating an additional 7,000 or additional 8,000
8,000.
from the ARPA wellness
Okay.
to
got
the
it.
assistant director position. So it's going to be a total of 19,000 in
Okay,
that.
and will that be
new
all
ARPA fund.
the same reallocation form or two separate forms? Well, we'll figure that out, right?
It's all in one form.
Well, in one. Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
So this was the project request. So the project request that we need is for the COA Assistant Director.
So you want me to redo that?
I want you to redo that.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
I'm
can
looking
do
at side edition.
We'll figure out using the numbers, the right form to fill out. And make
Okay.
sure that it gets.
Meals for seniors / I think you can just take out the meals for seniors
Yeah.
and just make it Assistant Director.
Yeah.
The meals for seniors is already
Yeah.
good to go.
Yep.
And then we should, write in here somewhere, I guess, we'll get better
We'll
at this
figure
as
it
we
out.
use this policy and these forms and see what we had to change, but somewhere in here, we should,
Break it down.
break down where we're taking the money from.
Sure.
I'm not. And then we'll have to do an allocation to give to her,
Right. Right.
once we get it approved.
And we'll have to make sure it's numbered correctly and all of that, which I'm sure you will, Eric.
Right,
We will be on that.
okay, all right.
So I have, oh, we get a vote, sorry.
Yeah.
And then I have
Yeah.
a question for you.
Okay.
So, roll call vote, Teresa
Teresa A. Morse, yes?
That's Sexton Duranian, yes?
and Veronica Kelly, yes. All right, on the, oh, go ahead, ask your question.
Do you have, no, do you have equipment, computer and all that
Yes,
for this
we do.
person?
Yes,
Just make sure if you can get me as soon as you find somebody, the onboarding,
yes,
so that I can get the IT set up well before they even start. I'd
absolutely,
appreciate it.
absolutely.
Good.
Have you reviewed, I guess my next question is for Eric. Have you reviewed the, job description and the posting?
I did a very basic review of the job description. My understanding is it's the same one that was approved
Mhm.
by the Board of Selectmen for the prior
Yes.
time when it was out
Okay,
there.
so the job description is good to go. And then you two can work together on the
On the posting
posting
and make sure they
and
get
get
posted.
that up on the website and
Yes.
wherever else it should go.
Absolutely.
All right,
So do we need a motion for that or is it good?
No, once
We've
you've,
already done
once
that.
you've approved that, we can just go ahead and
All right.
get it posted.
get it posted.
We'll get it posted tomorrow.
Yes, no, we
All right.
absolutely get it posted tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank
This
you.
means we can do so many more things. I'm
Yes.
Very excited.
Yeah, that would be great.
Thank you.
So, and you need the additional staff so you can do the recertification.
Yes.
All right. What you've been waiting for, Mike. Come on up.
That's good. I've had a amount of work here. This is actually fantastic.
Mike's hired counsel will be showing up to represent us.
Where were you the night?
All right, so, this is, so let me unshare. All right, and should I bring this up on the screen then?
Sure.
also?
Whatever you'd like.
Okay, give me a minute. I'm not sharing the screen. Okay. And one, do I just want? Oh, these are the same thing. Looks like I have it twice. Then. I have it.
Okay, so it wasn't me. All right. Because I was like looking.
Thank you for
I said,
instituting
"These look
redundancies."
the same," and I was.
Yeah.
It's all right. No,
There's
perfect.
my confusion.
Or it could have been that Sabrina did it and I did it, or vice versa. So anyway, all right. So Mike,
Thank you. So this is a proposed ARP project called the Reestablishment of Stable Government Operations Related to the Wetlands Protection Act, Conservation Agent. There is under ARPA a category for administrative funding specifically to increase staff capacity to stabilize government operations. During COVID, the conservation agent for the town of Townsend's hours, there wasn't someone in that role, but the hours allocated for the conservation agent were cut from 20 hours to 15 hours. So this is a request for funding to increase it back to 19 hours. 19 hours was chosen because 20 hours hits that insurance gap. You know, kind of, you jump into that. And so we decided at this point, 19 hours would be fine for addressing the needs without adding that extra ongoing expense of insurance and benefits that would have to be addressed. So that's why we went from, instead of going back to the full 20 that is the norm, we decided to go to the 19, just to help manage the fiscal background of that end of it. The primary need of the position is we're kind of, now we've had Jessica, our conservation agent, in our role since August, and she's been doing a phenomenal job, and we've been getting a lot of great public feedback, but we're really realizing that there is a lot of outstanding order of conditions. There are a lot of things in the bylaws and regulations that are specifically tied to the conservation agent, probably because she is an enforcement agent for a lot of things. And so probably the regulations and bylaws are written as, oh, in case we need anything, we'll just designate the person with the best authority for it. So there's a lot of stuff that has to be undertaken specifically by her. And we're finding that a lot of people in town are maybe not super clear about wetlands or orders of conditions and closing out orders of conditions, and there's a real need to support the community in kind of understanding wetlands and how they are impacting projects and where the tie-in with water supply is and how to kind of support that. So Jessica's been really prioritizing being accessible to residents, going out and meeting with folks in the field, and talking with that. And so this is just an increase in hours to kind of further build into that goal, making sure we're meeting all of our things that are out there. Additionally, this is expected to return a lot of funding to the town because there's a lot of orders of conditions that weren't closed out. And there is collection of fees plus additionally late fees in some cases for longer periods. We found some that are 10 to 20 years old at this point, and it just takes a lot of administrative time to track down all these records, make sure we're going through the process, making sure we're doing our due diligence and working with applicants and getting everything sorted out and back to date. And so that's kind of the overall idea of the project. It is staffing for 4 hours per week for 4.5 years, which is through the closeout date that all ARPA projects need to be closed out, which is December 31st, 2026. Which I can't believe I'm saying out loud, 2026, but all right, well, that's great. But you can see on the third page, item 18 with the budget, it includes staffing for 4 hours for 52 weeks, and it encompasses the matrix that we use for automatic raises, because I didn't want to get 2 or 3 years down the line and suddenly realize, oops, we forgot something and we are going to run over quickly. So it's pre-loaded in a way for the standard raises that we can expect under the matrix that we're now usually operating under for positions. So that's kind of the takeaway for the project as an overall. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have one question. Can this position be held by somebody else in the office, or it have to be different people?
This position, because so many of the specific requirements of our bylaws and regulations are laid out that they have to be administered by the conservation agent. In some cases, things can't even get handed up to me because by bylaw they are called out to be conservation agent. So the hours don't necessarily end up directly with Jessica, but they do need to end up with a conservation agent. And I think it makes the most sense considering we already have a 15-hour conservation agent to just increase that to 19 hours because she's already on the ground and doing the work and knows the codes and the regulations and the project's ongoing.
Okay, that's what I was trying to understand. Perfect.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, this is not 4 hours for a brand new person. This is kind of following the Townsend First policy of if we've got extra hours, we're going to start with in-staff and in-town as much as possible. And Jessica's an in-staff employee already. So that's a good question.
So I just want to make a statement about the hour cut. It wasn't so much as we didn't think the position was needed, but in FY21, the land use coordinator was not included. It was zero funded. But we did have a 20-hour a week agent, and I think it was a 19-hour a week admin. So what we did in FY '22, and this had a lot to do with the benefits. We said we want a land use coordinator. So the benefits would go to the land use coordinator. And then it was a 19 and a 15. In order to, because we had the extra hours of a land use coordinator, it was a budgeting thing. And that was why we did it. I think the hours are definitely needed. So I have no issue with doing this increase.
I have a comment. I just want to say that Jessica, I've been following the Conservation Commission. Jessica has been doing a phenomenal job. Matt has been doing a phenomenal job. And there was a lot of backlog. And if anybody ever watches the videos, when it gets to the agent report, she's talking about items that have been, like you said, 10, 15 years in arrears that are finally getting caught up in what needs to be caught up. So I am 100% for, giving her the ability to get some of that additional.
Ditto.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is approve the project and then sit down with numbers to figure out where we're going to get the money from. Which project, because we have to make sure that we have the money. It's just a matter of we've allocated the funds. Where do we move the money from? And I think it might be, we could do 1 year. You have a very lovely breakdown.
Yes, so you can. split it
So
up.
we could do the FY '23, approve the project, approve it for the FY '23 budget, and then see where, I don't want to eliminate all the wellness money that's there for, in one fell swoop tonight, because who knows, it might, you did what we did a lot, guesswork, okay, I'm putting 5,000 here, I'm putting 5,000 there, so that, and then we have to look at like the Greenville Road Bridge, what's been happening with that.
Right.
So it's possible that, so what I'm thinking is.
We can improve the project and then just work on the allocations per
And the
year.
allocation, like, I would probably take it out of the cleaning, disinfecting public buildings.
And my suggestion was going to be to approve the project, reallocate the funds out of the cleaning and disinfecting line, knowing that if we decide to continue that, we have the other COVID related services that we could then switch over to pay for the COVID
Oh,
cleaning.
yeah, that sounds good, and we'll know by then whether.
And that,
Project.
yes, and we'll,
et cetera, et
we
cetera.
still have enough money to fund the cleaner for several years that will be left in that line, even after we take the 25,000 out.
Okay,
And we should definitely have a good idea as to where we are by the time we need to make a decision about
about that.
continuing that funding, which is going to probably be several years down the road.
All right, so we need a motion to add an ARPA project for wetlands, what did you call
The project's name, I've worked for the federal government, so I know how to make really elaborate names that include all the boxes you want to hit. So it's the reestablishment of stable government operations
it?
related to Wetlands Protection Act,
Number
colon.
one.
If we have many names.
Yeah, I was about to say, did it work out to a nice acronym? If you
Number one, name of proposed project.
How about
Number one.
restoration of hours for conservation agent?
All right, if you want to, if you want to go that way, I guess you could. If you're saving ink, I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, I know.
We even took it into consideration, we increased it.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I've worked with the federal government. I know what ARPA's federal money. I know what they're going to look for and want to see repeated and diligently outlined. So
So
happy to facilitate as much as possible.
So let's reallocate 26,000 from the COVID cleanup project. I'll call that exactly, cleaning and disinfecting public buildings. All right, so is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
One of you has to do a second.
Second. They're catching on. That's how this is gonna go on for a while, I think.
Probably hearing. I didn't put in my hearing aids again. I think it's on purpose.
All right, and any further discussion? All those in favor? Teresa, roll call. Teresa, roll call votes,
Teresa A. Marsh, yes?
Cal Sexton Iranian, yes.
and Veronica Kell, yeah. Okay. All right.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Monday.
Pass on our.
Monday, this one, I'll tell her. I'll let her.
I mean, you can
I'll tell her. I'll tell her she has to start working on it
Yes.
on Monday. Yes, thank you very much.
Please thank her for me.
I will, and I'll tell her to watch the recording of this so she can hear all your comments. I'm sure she'll be appreciative of that. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mike, for waiting through all.
Of course. This is, I got to hear about all the cool wellness stuff that I'm pretty excited about.
All right, 5.1 is select board goals for the town and for the town administration. So, are we ready for this? In Eric's contract, we were to, set up goals for review in June, I think it was. Is that true? I think it was June.
I believe it was June for the upcoming fiscal year.
Yes, and so I thought we should talk about this, but I also think we should talk about our individual goals for the town. And so what I took the liberty of doing was printing out, and I have 4 of these here, what we had put together for the former town administrator in May of last year. A lot of this doesn't apply because there were reasons. But what I thought I would like to do is share this with everybody. So I brought a copy in for each of us, and that we could look over it and talk about format and content at the next meeting, if you're okay with
Are
it.
you talking about the review, the evaluation?
Is it on the SharePoint, Chairman?
It is not in the SharePoint, but it will be.
Oh,
I brought hard copy.
Yes, I remember.
Do you remember this?
I do
I
remember.
started editing it. And in fact, I edited the first one because the B part of that was to use SharePoint for all, and we got that running. So, because that wasn't so much going before.
I'll give him this one and I'll.
Yeah, Teresa, I have a hard copy for you. I didn't realize you were gonna be on the Zoom. So, anyway. I do have.
Well,
a
I
hard-
can run down there now and pick it up. The baby's asleep. No, that's all right. I'll listen along.
What I thought, I'll get it to you, I'll put it up in the SharePoint, but I thought we could look at it and review and revise and see if this is still the format that we want to use. And Eric, you can provide your input, like this is a dumb one. I do this already, you know, those sorts of things.
Yeah, I just want to make one general statement. Prior to doing a review, I feel it's important to all employees that we're reviewing do a self-analysis for us to base the review on. So I'd like to see that added if we could.
Well, we're only doing Eric. Eric does everybody else. So, that's Eric and the human resources persons, you know, ultimately Eric, but, you know, delegated to human resources person that we now have. So, but this is just for us. So maybe it makes sense for Eric to write his own goals and then we look at what's there.
Not so much his own, well, I'd like to see Eric's opinion of what he set for himself and how he met that standard as part of our review.
Part of the review, yeah. But
Yeah,
we're
he
not
did,
reviewing
when I
it.
first,
I've
when I
only
first-
been beaten.
yeah, when I first met with him, he did have a list of like 15 things he had hoped to accomplish, so it'd be
Yes,
nice to
well-
see them and, yeah, see where he thinks he did on them.
It's getting longer.
So here are my goals for the town. What? Oh, thank you. Sorry, I'm sitting with my back to that screen.
That's why it needs to go there.
These are my general goals for the town. One is to have all staff in place. Second is to have all documents in place, and we're getting there daily. You know, we're getting there. So, and actually in there, the documents are listed as one of the goals. Have all the documents in place, and we are in process for all of that. So these are a year old already. And the last thing is to have enough visible things happening in town that people say, yeah, this is working, this is good. So those are my goals. That's it, pretty much. So, Chaz, you're next.
I am an overachiever then.
You are, but that's
Do you have a
okay.
spreadsheet for
We
me,
tolerate
Chad?
No, I have a lot of things that improve IT media is something that we're working on. The IT infrastructure in town hall.
That even make it into you? I don't think it will.
Um,
Go ahead.
I'd like to see a focus on historic structure preservation in town. I'd also like to organize and implement an ADA plan.
These are not your plans for Aaron. These are yours.
These are, yeah,
Your goals.
my
Okay.
town goals.
ADA plan. Yeah, that's one of the plans. that
Well, we need that for and I found this and printed this out for you. That's a presentation I did to the board. I've already submitted it to Eric.
That's the housing. Yeah, thank you.
I'd like some work with, Public Works. I'd like to look into evaluating for a town planner or an engineer.
I would love a town engineer.
I also feel that we need to, and it is partly in progress, but to update the agreement with North Middlesex. That agreement we're currently working on is 1974.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
throwing it
that's
out
in
there.
process right now.
Well,
It is.
yeah, but I'm
Yeah,
saying
okay.
we need to.
I think there's a meeting on Friday.
And I'd also like to see a little more with recreation department enhancements. That's something that would definitely need to be discussed. And the final big one is the budgeting. I think we really need to take a close look at this zero or negative kind of line allocation, having zero amounts and then adding money to it. I wish my allowance was like that when I was growing up. But I do think that whole process needs to be streamlined and it would give us all a better idea of how to budget more properly. And I'd like to work closely with the finance committee to be able to come up with a better and more efficient budgeting process going forward.
It's one of the things I want to talk about during my section is something about that.
Well, you and I have the same idea on a lot of different things.
We actually have in this, there, number 3
Yeah.
is a bunch of budget stuff.
Yeah,
Number 4 rolls in here too.
and that's all I have.
Teresa, goals for the town.
Yeah, I'd like to see mine are more pinpoint ideas. I'd like to see the town have a residential signage size limit.
Say that again, residential signage size limit?
Size
yeah.
limit, yeah. So
have
you
that?
can't, excuse me?
We don't have a signage?
No.
Go ahead.
With the goal being you can't have signs over a certain size in windows and across
Oh.
buildings and stuff like that.
Okay.
I'd like to see the town, which we also don't have, but it gets tricky, a citation, basically the ability to cite for public nudity, basically urination, public urination, but I don't want it to be a criminal offense. I just like it to be something that we can cite in the town.
That's actually relatively easy to do. I've done that. I've done that exact thing before.
But again, like I said, I'm not looking for criminal prosecution. I'm just looking for the ability for it.
Just as a civil fine.
A civil fine. I'd like just to look, I know this one we actually have a law, but I'm being told that we continue to have issues with it. The number of unregistered vehicles.
We just updated that bylaw at the special town meeting in December.
So we want to make sure we're seeing that is enforced. And there was one of the, no, that was, we'll talk about that later. So those were, like I said, 3 little pinpoints, the ones that are nicking at me.
All right, Laura, did you have something to add?
Yes, I did, Madam Chair. I thank you for Teresa for bringing that up. I have heard in the past, but with so many things going on, I don't always bring up everything, that it was reported to a police officer at one time, probably within maybe a year ago. And the answer was, oh, well, that's the custom in their country.
Wait, what are we talking about here? Unregistered
What you just
Public
urination.
Yeah, public urination. Yeah, I understand it's been reported several times. We don't have a law against it. And again, if we do have something, then people will know, and maybe it'll be up to a police officer, just as if he pulled me over for speeding, to decide whether to cite or not. But at least if we had something, then the police would have an option. Right now, they have no option at all. And the complaint I heard is like, the exposure in front of children, etc. And there's nothing that can be done with it.
Near the center of on Main Street.
All right, thank you, Laura. We're gonna move on here. So as far as the goals for the town.
I'm good with it.
And then, so we'll look through the performance evaluation and come up with something.
The next
Discussion in the next meeting.
At the next meeting.
Sure.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that would be fine.
All right. And we can, and that gives, I just needed a starting point without doing anything. All right. Next meeting.
But Madam Chair, it would fall under my goal for the town that I said, that the evaluations that are done, that people self-evaluate, and Eric does annual evaluations. That would be a goal for the town.
Yes, we are definitely in need of that. There's a lot of human resources.
That is definitely something that I've already mentioned to the department heads, that there's an expectation that they're going to be doing annual evaluations for their staff next year. So they already know.
So maybe Eric, look at this. I don't know if this all really applies, but look through this and then add what you would like to accomplish. And then we can go from there. So we'll put that on the agenda for the second.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Moving on to 5.2, the town administrator updates and reports. Do we want to do this?
That is definitely a part of it. I have it on the list if you want to. I have a list of things if you want to.
No, go ahead. You go. It's your
go. So one thing that I wanted to run by the board to make sure that you are comfortable with this is there has been a request from the fire department for to be able to have some admin hours to assist them with payroll and bills, bills accounting. So I've talked over with the fire chief. In the past, my understanding is there was an admin in the fire department, but there hasn't been one there for several years. And he was talking about somewhere between 2 and 4 hours a week of administrative support to handle those the payroll and bills portion of his of the fire department's work. He has identified funding in the budget for it, and the anticipation would be that we would the first place we would look would be internally to see if there was a staff member who would be interested, who'd be within their job description and interested in taking on that extra work for extra hours.
Question. Would that be able to dovetail with the facilities need for that?
That would be our hope. But that's not certain.
Correct.
The facilities hours are already handled and being handled by Katie. She's already started doing that work.
Okay.
And so I've mentioned this to her, and she said, but it's not up. Obviously, I need to talk to the board about whether or not that was the board was comfortable with. And if the board is comfortable with that, then I can talk to the fire chief about specific number of hours and then talk to likely candidates in the town about whether or not that's something that would be feasible.
I'm comfortable with that. Teresa, are you comfortable with that?
Yes, I'm okay with that.
Okay, then I'll speak to the fire chief about that. So one of the issues that came up this year was a massive deficit in our energy accounts, primarily from Unitel. The town budgeted $75,000 for FY22 for electric and gas bills, and the total of those bills for FY22 was about $114,000. So we're almost $40,000 in the hole for energy bills. So I wanted to, before I reached out and spoke to some of my counterparts about this, I wanted to discuss it with the board about the possibility of working with one or more surrounding towns to potentially hire an energy manager. It's a position that I'm very familiar with. I worked with one in Lowell. She came on and made a massive improvement in the city's electric bills. She did a lot of green communities work, and she went through the bills and worked with the utility to make sure that they were accurate, that there weren't any overages. And every year that she was on staff with the city, she saved the city more than her salary. She was hired at a $50,000 a year salary. So if it's the kind of position that we could potentially work with 2 or 3 other towns to share the costs on, and we're talking about $10,000 to $15,000 cost for the town for an energy manager. If that person could save us $20,000 in energy costs, it would be a net benefit for the town, and we would be not spending all that money on energy. So it's something I wanted to float to folks, to the board, to see if that was something that you thought was reasonable or worth pursuing. I could certainly obtain a job description, and I can talk to a person about how they, were able to achieve this sort of savings.
How does this fit with, we have a contract with Ross for energy aggregation.
Sure.
How would this position fit with that?
This would be a completely separate piece, because the energy manager would be focusing on, rather than the energy aggregation project
Mhm.
is the lumping together of all the municipal energy bills and all the town's energy bills to be able to go out to a third party and get us a better energy cost
Right.
than Unitel provides us. What the energy manager would do would be making sure that all of our town buildings are, are energy efficient and are not, and that the energy bills are accurate and that we are not expending money for energy unnecessarily.
Right.
And whether that's at the Unitel rate or a lower rate, any savings would be savings that we would come off of our bottom line for energy costs.
So with the internal evaluations of the current,
Yeah,
of the library and the senior center and the schools and all that.
yeah. So my proposal would be a multi-step proposal. Number one, I would reach out to MRPC and also to maybe Pepperell and Ashby to see if there was something that they were interested in. I would acquire a job description, and I could even ask if the person that I worked with in Lowell could come and give the board like Zoom in and give the board a presentation as to what she did for the city.
I'd like to know more. Yeah, we definitely need someone to manage the communities because that isn't.
And
Yeah,
we,
I'm not sure where there would be overlap with what Ross is doing, what the energy committee is doing. So I'd like to hear what's to be done, but I'd like if we also invite the energy committee to that as well.
sure, I think that would be, yeah, I think that would be a good idea to invite both Ross and the energy committee. One of the things that Catherine, the one I worked with in Lowell, did was she was the city's manager of the energy aggregation project once it was up and running. She's the one who interfaced with the consultants and did the outreach about after it was set up. But I think having her talk to us and getting a job description and reaching out to folks isn't going to cost us any money. I just wanted to make sure that was something that the board was interested in.
And that would also give the energy committee a point person for the green communities now, or grants and following that through. They really don't have a point person in town. And that would be good.
Yeah, so if we, I think just given the dramatic increase that the town has seen, anything that we could do to get ourselves, even if it is just, getting us on top of green communities, Catherine, who I worked with, made sure that the city got a Soul Smart designation, so that, which led to grant opportunities for solar rollouts. She worked on converting the fleet from a gas fleet to a hybrid fleet, and looked at acquiring, vehicle chargers and electric vehicles for the departments that were able to have them through grants, so that they weren't coming out of town dollars to pay for those vehicles. I think it's worth exploring if the Board of Selectmen is interested.
I'm interested. Yeah.
I'm interested.
Okay.
Teresa, interested? Yes.
Yes,
very
that sounds good.
Okay, so I'll
Yeah.
start pursuing that and bring something back to the board
I think
sometime
that's a good idea.
in the future.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention to the board that Teresa brought to my attention a potential grant opportunity for contaminated sites in town. So I was looking at potentially looking at that for 97 Main Street, since that's a town-owned property that's got some contamination issues. So I'm going to be, just wanted to let you guys know that I'm going to be taking a look at that and seeing if that's something that we can pursue. Let's see. I know Chaz already knows this because he was there, but Mike and I spoke at the planning board yesterday about a proposal to possibly use Chapter 40R for a project that got proposed in the site immediately adjacent to the mall by the Hannafords that's been for sale forever, right down 119, right on almost at the town line. There was a proposal from a developer to put in 30 units of housing on that site, which wouldn't be approvable under our current zoning bylaw. But Chapter 40R is a statute that provides financial compensation to municipalities who adopt a denser housing as of right. I know Chaz did a lot of work on this before, and it's something that we used in Lowell. And so the planning board seemed to think that it was worth exploring. Given that we have the MBTA communities requirements that are kind of looming over every municipality's head that's either adjacent to an MBTA community or an MBTA community themselves, we're going to have to put in denser as of right multifamily housing in town for up to for a minimum of 750 units. This would be a test balloon that would allow us to see how the project might work in a 40R setting. And it would bring us in, if they approved a 40R at the density that the developer wanted, we would get, I believe it's $75,000 when we pass the district and $90,000 when we issue occupancy permits.
Yeah.
All the more reason to look at traffic patterns at Proctor Road and the high school intersection, because it is right between those two. And 30 units there would be a problem, I think, from the traffic standpoint.
Well,
So I'm not opposed to exploring that, but I think you have to look at that as part of it.
Yes, and I think there's a couple of things in the work that may potentially look at those two traffic areas.
Mhm.
I'm hopeful that we're going to have one of those at least will come to fruition sooner rather than later.
Two of the things that I think are important in that particular thing is, number one is the planning board will have control or negotiating exactly what goes in there. So it's going to be pre-approved before it even happens. That's number one.
Right.
Number two, we also would be getting reimbursement for any children that are in that development that go to North Middlesex. So the additional funding from the state.
And so is this affordable housing?
That's the approval.
That's the
that-
question.
And how does this roll into the Affordable Housing Trust?
Yes,
and,
yes, yes. That's this
state
is
maintained?
the planning board will have the negotiating of what they need to do. So I think everybody would have input on exactly what goes in there and what we would like to see. So I think it gives the town the leverage to be able to put exactly what we feel. is
And mandate some affordable housing in there.
I'm going to throw something out right now. The Affordable Housing Trust has no paid staff. They have no clerical support. They have, I'm on the board as the Board of Selectmen person. We talked about this last night. If that's going to be a viable thing in town, Affordable Housing Trust, then it needs paid staff. It needs support from the town. It can't just be a group of volunteers. And so we need, and if we're looking at 30 units and we're looking at these 6 properties, we need to think about how we, the town, are supporting the Affordable Housing Trust as far as staffing goes.
I think in my mind, a lot of that circles back around to conversations that we've had earlier about whether the Community Preservation Act is a viable proposal for the town, because lots of municipalities who, especially smaller municipalities who adopt the Community Preservation Act, dedicate their entirety of their affordable housing percentage to the Affordable Housing Trust in the town for the furtherance of their mission.
Right.
And that would provide funding for staffing, to be able to allow them to have some more permanent.
We can also look at ARPA funds, again, depending on what happens with other projects, because affordable housing is one thing that can support. So,
Well,
but
the housing,
all I'm
the
saying is,
Affordable Housing Trust is a separate entity. It's not really part of the town.
it is a separate entity, but it is part of the town. And it needs to be funded. And if you think volunteers are going to run your Affordable Housing Trust, you're crazy.
That's not what I'm saying at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying, is there, the Affordable Housing Trust is set up so that they can accept money, then they can hire their, an administrative staff if they want to.
Then
That's what I'm
we should be
saying.
looking at, because I think it's pretty necessary.
Right, so did
Um,
we allocated money, did we not, to the Affordable Housing Trust?
Yeah, but if you're looking at, evaluating properties, a lot of that money is gonna go into that.
No, I understand that, but
And it's not enough to keep it going for longer than a year. And so CPA is a viable option.
Mhm.
We just need, all I'm saying is we need to be thinking about that.
Mhm.
Because right now, it's a volunteer organization and it's not gonna last. If in fact, we're gonna have 30, there's work that needs to be done without, without support from the town, it's not going anywhere. That's all.
So I just wanted to give the board kind of an update on that, the 40-hour presentation
Yeah,
that I gave. It's obviously a very preliminary phase now, because it would be a bylaw. It would have to go on town meeting before anything was finalized. And long before that, we would have, conversations with staff and the developer and negotiations in front of the planning board, as Chaz mentioned, about what kind of development they would be willing to accept, like what their parameters would be for that sort of a development.
okay.
So I just wanted to let the Board of Selectmen know. Today, the veterinary clinic came in and filed their application. I know that they had been meeting with the members of the land use staff for the last couple of weeks, but they came in and filed an application today. So,
Special permit?
yeah, as they were being required to by Eric, the building commissioner. And so I did let both Eric and Adam know that they came in and filed that application. Where it goes, we'll see once it gets onto the planning board agenda, but I did want to let the Board of Selectmen know that did happen. Let's see. So so this is one question that I wanted to kind of float to the board to see what your appetite was for this. And after watching kind of the town's operation over the last couple of months, and seeing kind of how the town operates in its current hourly setup, I was wondering what the appetite of the board was to potentially change the hours of town hall to be closed on Friday afternoons and open later on Tuesdays. Right now, our Fridays are very sparse. There are multiple departments that are closed on Fridays, and on Friday afternoon, almost every department is closed. And it seems to me as though there's a large percentage of the town that believes that town hall is already closed in the afternoon on Fridays. And it might be more efficient and effective to have a later night when folks could be here during the time that the Board of Selectmen meeting was going on. So if we needed to have staff members in to talk to the board or to make presentations to the board, they're doing it during their regular hours.
So what are the proposed hours
Well, it would be open until 8
on Tuesday?
on Tuesdays,
9 a.m. to 8 p.m.
9 a.m. to 8 p.m. for the town hall would be open. Open to 4 on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then open to either noon or 1 on Friday.
And which, with the treasurer, when you say the town hall is open, which departments? Treasury, building, or is it just the town hall is open and the town clerk? What does that represent to aid?
Well, so right now on Fridays, the departments that are open in the morning are the Board of Selectmen's office, the treasurer's office, the town clerk, and the land use office are open in the morning on Fridays. In the afternoons on Fridays, it's the treasurer's office and the Board of Selectmen's office, so the only offices that are open in the afternoon.
And not the town clerk.
The town clerk closes at noon on Fridays.
How did that work?
They are closed in the afternoon on Fridays.
So the only thing you would be adding to Tuesday night is what?
So we'd be adding the town would be open till 8 on Tuesday night.
Is our town clerk a 40-hour-a-week employee or a 35-hour?
That's not
I thought it was 40.
I do not.
so.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so it would involve conversations with the unions about what the hours would be for 30-hour week employees, 35-hour week employees, 40-hour week employees, what their hours of service would be. And that would be, something we'd have to sit down and have a conversation with the department heads about to make sure that they were all on the same page about the expectations for those days.
See, we tried that before. This is the second time since I've been on the Board of Selectmen that we've talked about the hours on Friday. We had, didn't we try the hours? We changed the hours back because even though we were supposed to be open on Fridays. The only department that I know of that was closed, two, would be the land use office and in the building department. And I've come in here on a Friday and no department except for the treasurer's office is open outside of the Board of Selectmen. Right. Which is not what we had changed it back to.
Our town clerk then is only open 37 hours a week, but is being paid for 40.
Right. And then I think, again, that would be an understanding that the people in the office would have to work longer than the hours, and the town clerk's office, they work longer than the hours that they're open to the public. And that would be for other 40-hour-a-week employees as well. They come in before 9 o'clock and begin there.
I understand that, but if we were a store and we said our offices are from 9 to 4, we're open from 9 until 4. If they're staying after we're closed, the reason why we're here is public service. We have to take in, what the people want. So, I know for a fact that I've had some comments from the public about people needing to do work on Friday and not being able to get it done. So, this is why we changed the hours back. I think we should talk about it.
Okay.
I guess
We tried going both ways in the year that I've been here.
it used to be that it was 9 to 4 every day, and on Tuesdays 6 to 8.
Right.
And people didn't like going home, and so so they asked us last summer
To switch it to,
to make 9 to 6. So we said okay. So if we go 9 to 8, that means that we're open 42 hours. However, maybe we need to look at that and make it not 9 to 8, but make it 11 to 8 or something. To offset that. I do think that town clerk's office should be open 40 hours a week if we have a town clerk that's 40 hours a week. I don't think I didn't realize they were closed on Friday afternoons on a regular basis.
That's not what that's not what we talked about when we changed the hours back.
Correct.
So if that's been happening, that is not something that was approved by the Board of Selectmen. I will say that.
okay. So again, my main concern was that, outside of even the town clerk, we already have multiple departments that are closed on Fridays, and and that, you know, that I think that folks who use those departments have come to the understanding that they, you know, if they wanted to see land use, they're not gonna be able to see them on Friday afternoons. If they want to see the building department, they're not gonna be able to see them on Fridays. They're gonna have to, you know, schedule it for other days. And so it was just something that I was thinking of to try and, you know,
I'm just looking at 40-hour weekend.
the,
Why are we closed on Friday afternoons? I mean, it's the same deal there for the building commissioner. If we have 40-hour week employees, shouldn't the offices be open 40 hours a week?
well, again, it doesn't mean the building commissioner isn't working. It means the building commissioner's office is not open because he is often not in the office. He's often out in the field. The building department isn't open because Janet isn't there to keep the department open. And that's the other challenge that we face with a lot of, you know, part-time employees. There are departments that have to spread those part-time employees over the entire work week. And that, you know, poses a challenge. If you've got someone for 19 hours, they're not going to be here for the entirety of the work week. If you condense the work week a little bit, it might make it easier for folks to be in the office a larger percentage of the time.
I'd like to see traffic patterns. I'd like to see the traffic on what we actually do now before we make any further
Sure.
decisions.
So if I could certainly, it's clear to me that the board has, you know, strong feelings about something like this and not something we want to undertake lightly.
And it was very simply is that we made a change thinking that we were doing something as a benefit, and it turned out that it wasn't a benefit to the town. It was a benefit to the employees, which I don't have a problem with. But I think that we need to find a better balance, because if somebody wanted to get a license or something where we have 40-hour-a-week employees that we're paying and that office isn't open, I just don't think that's a good service to our residents. It's just my opinion. No, and there are times that I have to schedule my own time to come in to do, whether it be a dog license or whatever, you know, and scheduling it around the time frame and coming in here and finding out that they're not open, I think I would be a little upset. I mean, our job here is to service the townspeople, and we need to be open.
When we closed on Friday afternoon, it was with the understanding that, and I know that there are offices that are closed in the afternoon. Land use in particular, that I don't think anybody has full-time hours in there.
Right.
And if the building commissioner is out in the field on Friday afternoon, okay, fine. But the idea was that to do uninterrupted work, the office was to be open until 4, and that's not what happened.
Right.
And
And so
so
that,
you feel a little taken advantage of.
and that's why I don't think, I agree with you that is a harder system to both monitor and to kind of work.
And that's why
with
I'm
the
a
town
little.
employees. So yeah, so I completely understand that. It is an understandably short sample size, but I do on Friday afternoons, I do regularly walk around the building and try to evaluate, you know, knowing that we have a couple of departments that aren't open, whether there are people are coming in and looking for things and what the kind of traffic is. And generally speaking, the traffic is very, very, very dead on Friday afternoons.
Right, but I'd like to see a total traffic pattern just to see.
Sure, and I think that's a perfectly reasonable request for something like this. So that was just
We'll come back.
well, I think Teresa.
Yeah, just one. We are still open late on Tuesday, right?
We're open till
Till
6,
6.
that's correct.
But we used to be open even later, till 8.
To 8 o'clock.
Right? And
Correct.
that's right. And I have to say, like you said, we need to look at patterns, but I've heard people that, again, would rather have more time after hours, like you're recommending, because it's hard for them, you know, they need to get work, and why aren't we open to 8? anymore on Tuesday. So there's both sides to this. We just need to look at it closely.
Right.
So let me get some traffic patterns. I can bring those back to the board to make an evaluation.
I'd even like to see some feedback from the town too, that the people that are coming in, maybe ask them.
Monkey survey, survey monkey.
Yeah, hey, you can always try something. Absolutely. One thing that I wanted to gauge whether the Board of Selectmen was interested in doing is, I know that we're currently in kind of drought conditions and we have some serious water issues in town. And I was thinking that it might make sense to put out over code red, just an update to folks to make them aware of the fact that we're in drought conditions and they should be, you know, limiting their outdoor water usage, and also maybe give them a heads up about the plans that are in the works for the town to build the water treatment plant that will allow the restoration of water services from one of the wells that had to be shut down. It feels like I've gotten some feedback that there are folks who don't know that there's the water treatment plant issue going on and aren't real clear about the water restrictions. And so
Code Red went out on Wednesday for the water department.
Oh, okay.
I was going to do it under my liaison reports, but I might as well just throw it out here. The water department, the commissioners had agreed that they requested to have signs put up in regards to the drought. We talked with the police chief. He agreed that he would post something on the police site. So he posted references to the water site. Water also posted on their website. And was there something that was posted on our website in regards to that?
We posted it, but just briefly when it went up. Yeah, we did an alert.
An alert.
Okay.
And each
I think it's still up.
some of the individuals then reposted for some of the town sites that are on Facebook as well.
Okay.
So the reason for that was to get the word out.
It's still up.
Is it?
It's gravel
Okay.
level 2 drought.
That's good.
It's still up there. It's just that when you put up an alert like this, if you don't change it after a certain period of time, just like me, you don't see it anymore.
Right.
You know, so we also have to get the state written correctly on the flashing sign out here. But the one at the harbor says state. The one up here still says state. So we have to fix that. But
Okay.
are you saying?
Well, no, it sounds like the water
Another-
department already did that. And that I have not signed up to that code red yet, so I didn't get that. So
As far as people not knowing, that's where the social media policies will be helpful. I think it's hard to get people to know things when you don't have paper.
Right.
You know, so, because it is in all places, but if you're not on the red alert system,
Right.
you wouldn't get it.
Right.
If you don't drive either down 119 or come in from New Hampshire to see the flashing light, if you come from the west and go up, you might not know.
Right.
So we need that Facebook page.
I agree.
So it's on.
I did have a
website.
question about the code red. Does that automatically put it on no campfire?
A what?
Does anybody know?
A what?
No campfires. It's because somebody told me they saw somewhere going into Ashby, no campfires, and did that include Townsend? And I didn't know.
No, a code red is through the police department.
Okay.
And that is, their notifications, you sign up for it and they send a notification to your phone. It comes in through like an emergency kind of tone.
Oh, okay.
And it tells you what the
Yeah, I know
What
what
the
those
alert-
are then. Okay. Yeah, they must have said it was the red status or orange status, and it meant no campfire.
that's
It
through
might
the
be
Pearl
the
Hill or
drought
something.
level.
Yeah, it must be at the Pearl Hill or something. Yeah. Okay.
Going back to something that we talked about a little bit earlier, I would like to propose and see if the Board of Selectmen would be interested in a joint meeting with the FinCom to have a conversation and kind of a recap of FY22.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
doing that sooner rather than later would be helpful, so we could maybe learn some lessons about what we did and how we could maybe do it better next year. So if it's okay with the board, I will reach out to the FinCom chair and see if there's a time when they could maybe come to a Board of Selectmen meeting
I'm good with that.
and have that conversation.
Yeah, the FinCon chair did talk about that at one of his meetings. And he definitely wanted to do kind of a post-op with the board of selectmen. The only thing he had asked is, he's away right now,
Yes.
in Hampton, and he doesn't have good Wi-Fi, so he wanted to wait till the middle of August.
Yeah, so we're probably talking about sometime end of August or
End of
beginning of
August.
September.
Yeah.
So the last thing that I wanted to mention was in coordination with the spreadsheet that we received from the grants coordinator today. I do have some disappointing news, which is that we did get Vinny did give his 2 weeks notice. So we are losing our grants coordinator as of the end of July. So as part of the discussion that we're going to have, I would ask if the board would be willing to allow me to post that position.
I would be in favor of posting that.
I would be in favor of doing that as well.
As well.
And so now I would probably turn it over to Veronica to have a discussion about the information that Vinny did send us over.
Oh, okay. We can do that. Let me bring that up.
I did not print out a copy of it, so I
And
apologize.
neither did I.
I
That's
think I did
in
too.
session. Where did I have it? It was 3. No, 4. So
Yeah, 4.1 was what it was.
I might have. Nothing?
Yes.
All right, it's pretty wide, so we're just gonna go across here. So these are the departments, project lead, grant, the purpose of the grant, the funding source, the maximum amount of the award, the town, any town match, if there is one, application deadlines, and notes. So the first one, I think is CDBG.
So, I did, I have been working with the vendor, who, yeah,
Diane
called,
Hansen.
yeah, Diane Hansen, who's been, managing the town's CDBG funding for, the last round, of funding. We got an extension, on that to wrap up a final project that they're expect to be wrapped up by the end of August. A final housing project for CDBG funds. My understanding is the next round is, I believe, in March. And
That's
so,
this application deadline.
yeah, and so we will be reaching out to MRPC to have a conversation with them about a couple of programs. I'd like to try and redo the kind of housing program, the housing improvement program that we did last time. And I have some ideas about potentially doing a sign and facade program for kind of the downtown commercial buildings that could use some freshening up for sign and facade work. So
That's a great.
we can use some CDBG funds for.
So with this extension was just for one project?
Yes.
And when is the contract complete with them?
Again, I think we're anticipating the last invoice to be submitted to us, probably gonna be early September for the work that they anticipate to be done at the end
Can
of
we
August.
request a full financial report from them as well?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'd like not only financial, but the housing piece of it.
Yeah.
Who was serviced, how, not who, but how many homes were serviced,
Yep.
et cetera, et cetera. I think we have a good idea from the quarterlies, but that would be good.
I think that makes sense.
All right, so that is CDBG. The next one was the MVP action grant. She has facts on this. The application deadline was 5/1/2022. We did not apply this year. We did apply the last two rounds, and our grant application was not funded. So the next round is in 2023. Maybe a solar feasibility study. Maybe this is something that we need to get people in place to do these things. It's hard to do things if you don't have staff who,
Yeah,
we
I
keep
think
piling it on. and
I
nothing.
mentioned it to you that I think that one of the gaps in town is project manager. It would be really great if we had a person who could manage, grant funded projects.
Mhm.
And it's just a kind of on a wish list to have that could be part of a town planner's duties or a design planner, to have someone who could just have some project management capacity to work through the MVP, the green communities, I think there's a lot of grants that I think that we could benefit from having some
Right.
assistance on.
Anyway,
Speaking of green communities.
next one up. All right, and there really isn't a project lead on this. I would think it would be facilities, but
Yeah, I think that, we were, so Rise was the vendor that we were working with.
Rise is the vendor, yes, and they're the ones that analyzed all the buildings. But again, this is something that the energy person could look at, both MVP and green.
Yes.
Yes.
So 10/1/2022 is the application deadline for the next round, but we have to close out the grant that we have by 9/1/22 in order for that to happen. We need a project from Facilities Energy Committee.
And so I have the contact at MRPC who helped us with the last round. And so even if all we're doing is just picking up another project that Rise has listed, if we could get it funded, it's money that the town doesn't have to spend for these energy upgrades on buildings. Which is,
They did a pretty extensive review of the buildings
Right.
spring a year ago.
Yeah.
And the ones that were most benefit, the biggest benefits were the ones that were chosen.
right.
And we did a 50-50 pretty much between town buildings and school buildings that are within town.
Right.
And so we could, and there were many more on the list.
Yeah. And so I think
So,
picking a block of the next tier and having MRPC submit those would just be, I think, an easy kind of low hanging fruit for
I agree.
the grant work. The next one is the municipal small business program, which is the one where we got the $500,000 for the Greenville Road Bridge.
right, and that was extended.
And that has been extended. Our conversation with Jimmy earlier this week, he anticipates going out to bid for that project anytime now.
Right.
So we'll know whether or not the $500,000 is enough to fund the reduced scope bridge project. And by reduced scope, the way that Jimmy explained it, it's a reduced in cost, but it's not a reduced amount of repair. It's just that rather than having to try to keep the bridge partially open and setting up streetlights at either end to allow two-way traffic, the bridge would be completely taken down during the time of of the construction. So it'd be a quicker build and a less expensive one because you need all
It's a
that.
little inconvenient, but
Yeah.
it's,
Nice.
Since we couldn't afford the convenient version.
we want it to save money, we'll save money.
Yeah,
but,
you know,
you're
gotta do what you
gonna
gotta
have
do.
to-
The complete streets,
This is something that happened in the 2017 timeframe. And hasn't really been picked up by anybody to look at that. So we are tier 3. And we should review those projects because I think things have changed somewhat
Mhm.
since that time. So, we have an approved prioritization plan, but we need to look at what projects are on there. And we are a tier 3 community.
They're
Round
due
2
by
construction
October.
Plans are due by October.
Okay.
Round 2 construction plans, which means we don't have, a slush fund for things
to
like.
pay for
engineering.
engineering, yeah.
And we need that. We don't put money aside for that. We don't have a lot of capital plan, capital money in place. So where do we get it from?
Mhm.
And I don't know that it's realistic to think we're gonna have construction plans 5, 10 months for any of those.
Yeah, that's why I'm like.
Yeah, if we don't have an engineer under contract right now, we're not gonna be able to have construction plans by that time.
Right.
So unless there's something that we have that's already sitting with engineering docs.
So this is a plan, we really, in town, we really do, talking about town goals, we really need town planning. There's a lot of little bits, but nothing is cohesive, and we don't know, we don't have a 5-year plan. These are the streets projects, these are the sidewalk projects, we don't have a plan.
Yeah, one of the things that's become kind of clear is that we need to start dedicating some funds just to being able to engineer projects so that when these opportunities come up to fund those projects, we have an engineered plan that we can turn around and
Yes,
submit with. And that's putting money out that it may take us some time to get a recoupment on,
right,
but spending $25,000 to engineer something that we could turn around and get a $250,000 grant for is saving us $225,000.
yeah.
So that's a big return on an investment. We just have to find the capital to be able to, and maybe that's something we talk about, funding a line with free cash to put in for, roadway engineering.
Right.
Or looking at infrastructure,
You know,
the infrastructure money that supposedly get approved.
Well, the thing about that is you have to have an action plan.
yeah, and you have to, the plan, there's a planning portion of it.
Yeah,
The planning portion of it is due by July 25th. So you can put in for planning.
Just write something.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to write up something.
Yeah.
Just because even if all they say is, well, we'll give you a little money to fund this particular bridge, then at least it's a plan we can put on the shelf, and the next time there's an opportunity to fund a bridge, we can say, hey, we've got an engineered plan for a bridge.
That's what we need to do more. of.
And we need to understand that we're gonna have to spend that money on engineering first, or figure out ways to get grants for engineering and not wait to try and get a grant for the whole shooting match.
And this is why a master plan is important, so that if we can have shovel-ready projects on the shelf so that we just pull it off and throw it out.
Yep.
Because that's the only way that we're gonna be able to take care of these things going forward.
I agree.
and then there's the community one stop.
Yeah.
Which we have never produced.
Right.
And again, that's probably in the planning department.
Yeah, and that's tricky, because I think some of the things under that we're probably not eligible for now because we don't have an open space plan.
Right,
Um,
well, yes.
I think some of those projects
Some of
require an open space plan, but yes, we should always,
Mass trails, park grants,
Yeah.
things like that, the.
require an
water
open
ones
space plan, yeah.
that I can't think of the name
Yeah.
of, but anyway.
But the brownfields grants don't require an open space plan,
No,
and that's
they don't. And I've talked to MRPC about that.
Yeah, and community planning grants, I mean, that would be really helpful.
It would,
If we
wouldn't
could
it?
get some community
Maybe that's
planning.
where we can get the marketing too.
And that's where I think housing choice fits in as well.
So we just have to get things lined up and plan to apply for this next year. When was it due? June. So
Okay,
maybe
so-
a goal for next year.
So it is unfortunate that Vinny is leaving us. You know, hopefully we can, we can try to find someone that has, the ability to an interest
Mhm.
in finding these sorts of things and helping fill out applications for them. You really have to be a self-starter. You really have to be kind of willing to be a bothersome caller to state agencies and get to direction that the town needs, because we not necessarily having that internal.
I'd also like to see the department heads being more proactive in finding, if they're looking for needs in their departments, I would like to see them looking at funding, try to help their own funding instead of coming, throwing it all in the budget onto us if they can find some self-funding. I know that Council on Aging does that. They look for their grants. The library trustees, they look for grants. I think other department heads should be able to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is a challenge, because I think if you look at the available funding source, funding things that get funded
Mhm.
are parks, passive recreation, that sort of thing. There's a lot of funding out there for that, which we're not currently eligible for.
Right.
There's the energy efficiency kind of things, the MVP, and the green communities.
Mhm.
DEP has a few of those too that
Yeah.
come out from time to time.
Yeah, the clean, the DEP and EPA even sometimes have
Right.
contamination cleanup things. But you're gonna find some departments that just, there's not anything out there to help them. But I do think you're right, that we need to encourage them to get on mailing lists and speak to their peers about how they, but if they've, found grant opportunities, I think any dollar that we can get for the
Yeah,
town.
if they're throwing interest, especially if they're giving you interest, we can then, that gives me an opportunity to talk with senators or the state rep to see what they have too, because there's always opportunities. I will say that I miss Sheila Harrington in her state rep position, because there were times where legislature was going to be closed and she's like, we get an extra $10,000. What does Townsend need?
Yeah.
We need it for the bandstand. That's how the bandstand got money. You know what I mean? So
It really is a shame that we don't have a state rep now. I mean, it really is something that I think once we have one, that in a place like Townsend is, you're really locally focused, because with all due respect to the state senator, the swath that he is looking at, Townsend is one very tiny corner of.
Right.
And so
but I will say that he does call and say what
he does, and I've called his chief of staff multiple times. In the last couple of
So,
weeks.
they know that we are there. They know that we are looking for that kind of stuff, but we also have to be prepared on our end so that when they do call and you need something, we have a project that's ready.
Yes,
That they can help us with.
absolutely. And so that's something to think about for maybe fall town meeting, is whether or not that's.
Funding something.
So I will try to get this position posted and
Okay.
turned around. I could try to get it posted
So we're
tomorrow.
posting that one, we're posting.
The assistant director.
Director.
And I'm following up with the fire chief on the additional hours for admin.
yes,
And then
that's
Mike
the
is
other
gonna
one we go through.
let Jess know about the additional hours that we approved for the conservation agent.
Okay. All right. So, board liaisons. Is there anything there? I've already talked about the housing authority,
Yeah, I already talked about finance.
so.
I have the water department. They are working diligently to get the Main Street well up and running, to get that online. I know that has been a goal of theirs. Right now, they were not being able to get some sort of wiring, to get the electrical hooked up. It was on back order. They finally got it, so that should be up and running. I do want to say that, they did all that they could to help with the water provisioning, in regards to the fire on Old City Road. I want to thank the fire department and all of the municipal aid that we received from other towns as well. It was very good to see. I also want to thank the TEO and Bayberry Water, Bayberry Hill Water, for supplying water to the residents that had reduced water or no water because of the usage that the fire department needed to help with that fire. This is all part of, it takes a village, and I appreciate everybody that did all the work for that. The rec department is in full swing. They are, as we talked about earlier, they have record amounts of children that they're working with. I just want to take time to thank them as well, because they are taking care of the future of our town, and I think it's really important for us to support them as much as we possibly can. I think that's, the bandstand, I know that they're working on that as well. They had an evaluation done. They had an architect look at it, and they are discussing things. That's still a work in progress. I don't know if you guys want to, or if you want to set a date on when we want to bring them back, or however you want to work that. I can let them know. Is there a date specific that you want to see them?
No.
No? Okay.
We want them to handle it, right?
Right. But I'm saying that we had them scheduled for a date, we pushed it off, and then they didn't make that as well. You're comfortable with?
What date were they?
No, we had it for, it was
actually the beginning of June.
yeah.
And then we kicked it off to the end of June, and then we kicked it off indefinitely.
Yeah. So we'll leave it at, just let me know when you want to bring them back in. And then the planning, you already talked about that. So those are the only ones that I had.
All right. Moving on then, announcements and communications. I'm looking at this right now. I put a lot of, there are things in there to look at. I guess is, the one I was looking for was, there was a request for a public hearing having to do with, why is it not here? Replacing phone poles on North End Road. Did you read about that?
I did not see that one.
Hang on a moment. I'm going to different.
Are they owned by Unitil or Verizon?
Petition for original pole location. Okay, let's look this in. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up and share the screen. So I've put this on the agenda. You haven't seen it? Okay, so here we are. I thought I had put this in the announcements and communications, but I guess I didn't. Petition for original pole location, and it looks like this came in on July 14th. Received in the Board of Selectmen on July 15th. Unitil respectfully ask permission to construct and use a line for such transmission with the poles and other fixtures necessary to sustain and protect its wires upon and along the public ways in said town as follows. So North End Road, they want to install 2 new poles, and these are the poles. See attached sketch. So it's a pretty solid. Maybe I just popped this into August 2nd. It says, and to this end, your honorable board is hereby requested after due notice and a public hearing as provided by law to grant to your petitioner and its successors and sons the location for such line agreeably to the provisions of chapter 166 and all acts in the moment thereof. Also for permission to place and maintain underground laterals, manholes, handles, cables, and wires in the above or intersecting ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as it may desire for distributing purposes. It is suggested that the poles be shown as in the plan. So we can look at all this. And so I thought maybe we need to set up a public hearing for this.
Yeah, you need to take a vote to schedule a public hearing.
So poll petition 237 North End Road. Do we know about this?
This is the first I'm hearing of it.
I have not heard anything about this.
So I pulled this out of the communications just yesterday. And I thought I put it in because I think that we
The only
need to,
Unitil that I see is a letter from,
yes, there's that letter where
That's
they're
the only
changing
one I see.
their categories
Yeah.
or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, but so this is here. So we need to do something about this. So do we need a vote to schedule a public hearing to consider the petition for original poll location made by Unitil?
you need a vote or can we just direct?
You need a vote to schedule a public hearing, and then we'll.
All right, so
So
if-
I make a motion that we schedule a public hearing to discuss the Unitil poll
petition
petition.
for 237, one thing. What it looks like, but it's in that area.
For August 2nd, right?
For August 2nd, if that fits the time period.
2 weeks.
That's okay. So, is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor, roll call vote, please.
Teresa A. Moss, yes?
Sexton Duranian, yes?
And Veronica. So 2 weeks away. August 2nd.
Today's the 19th, so it's 2 weeks away.
2 weeks.
July is
Just enough
flying
time.
by.
Yeah,
Yes, I think that's the minimum amount of time that you have to
Okay.
schedule a public hearing. We can do it for the end of August, but I think.
All right, am I sharing the screen in front of me?
yes, you will.
Selfish. All right, the other things that were in there were things that I had pulled out from the correspondence folder. The other one and the MIA Unemployment Services Program Participation Application. I think that's something that needs to be looked at.
Okay.
I'm not running. I don't know much about this. But that's what this is. And I didn't see a letter there, so I was hopeful that one of you two would know what needs to be done here.
We can reach out to MIA and make sure that we're doing it the right way.
What we need to do with that. Unemployment Services Program Participation Application. So that seemed rather important.
It is.
I didn't think I knew. A lot of these we'd already done. The road opening permits, I put that just so that Eric, we authorized Eric to sign those. It's just so that you would know where that was.
I would like for that to continue, just so we can keep an eye on what's.
Sure.
So this was Flood Road at Worcester Road.
Because when somebody asks a question, I'm like, anything here.
There were several. Blood Road at Worcester Road. This was Linden Street at New Fitchburg. I think that's it. So, you can see what they're gonna do. But those are already taken. No problem. Well, classification changes. Small general delivery service, regular general delivery service, large general delivery service. So they are changing the rate classification for our account. So this is something the energy person could look at. But in any event, we should look at that. I think it's just a notice. I don't think there's anything else that we can do with that. Detail rates, police detail rates. This is just publishing, letting people know. We were contacted by your business up, and these are the detail rates. Did the town ask about this? I was trying to figure out why we received this. This was received on July 7th, so it was too late for our meeting.
Yeah, I did not request that, so.
I have a question for you. Maybe-
I didn't.
What's going on with the RRFB up at Spalding? Just orange cones there and it hasn't been placed. K5 was supposed to do that by the end of June, but then there was the question about the design.
And then we sorted that out before the end of June. That was,
Right, so do we know when they're going to be doing that?
I know that when we spoke to them then, they said, as with many things, the concrete was, concrete was a supply chain issue that they were having trouble scheduling.
Okay. And
So-
I know they have to move the pole like 4 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah, they moved the
Yeah.
pole, but that was something that I think Jimmy went down, talked to him, and he moved the pole, like the pole wasn't there. They just had a square where the pole was going to be, and they just moved it 4 inches. So it wasn't
Okay.
something that that didn't hamper any of the, but I don't think the concrete's down yet.
No, it's still dirt.
It's still
Right.
dirt. So
It's
that means
still
they
dirt.
have not gotten the delivery of concrete yet.
And that's what they're waiting.
And that's what they're waiting for.
All right. Thank you.
When they did tell me that it was just a timing issue. They were having trouble. I mean, everybody was a long way out with concrete delivery.
Okay. We received the volunteer response form for Jim LaQueer. But I didn't understand it. It said for the committee you want to be on, and he has town clerk written here. So I think maybe he wants to volunteer in the town clerk's office. So perhaps this should go back down there. I'm not really sure. It doesn't have the committees. So we did receive it, though. I just wanted to acknowledge that came in.
I can certainly take it down to the clerk's office and have them. I don't think they have volunteers.
They
don't
do
have-
use the,
They use the seniors from the
for the senior. I'm not supposed
abatement
to
program,
say-
right?
Yes, they do have that. So maybe that's what this is. I don't know. And so that was it.
I do have an announcement, Madam Chair. If
All right,
you so
go ahead. That was it for the communication.
I have been working quite diligently with several agencies in Massachusetts on, there's a national suicide hotline that is an 800 number. We have finally got authorization to have 988 now be the national suicide hotline number. And that went into effect last week. And I think that is a very, very big thing for anybody that needs help, anybody that knows. Just having a 988 number as opposed to an 800 number is much easier for somebody to call. A staggering amount of young adults, 18 to 24 right now is increasing in the suicide. The more that we can do to outreach that particular our youngsters, I think is most important. So if you have any questions in regards to that, there are, you can Google for the National Suicide Prevention. They do have stickers that they'd be able to send out. And I did request to have stickers sent to the schools here in Townsend so that they have that available. I wanted to make sure I did say that.
Anything else? Teresa, anything else?
No, I have nothing.
Then, with that,
Review and sign payroll.
right, we need to have a motion to review and sign bills, payroll and bills payable warrants out of session.
Make a motion that review and sign payroll and bills payable out of session.
Second.
All those in favor? Roll call.
Teresa A. Morse, aye.
Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Cal, yes. Our next meeting is August 2nd, regular 6 p.m. meeting. And
Should I
is there-
show up tomorrow morning to sign those, or are we all set with 2 signatures, the payroll?
2 signatures are fine.
Yep, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
It
right,
would be great.
all right. Thank you. And is there a motion to then move into executive session and adjourn from executive session?
So moved.
I'll do the motion, Teresa, if you don't mind.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I move that we enter into executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel. That would be for the police chief, and adjourn from the executive session.
Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Teresa A. Morse, yes.
Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Cal.